While others set sail to find One Piece, Kaido set sail to find a good place to drink. The grand line remains the same, only the enemy's bad luck has skyrocketed. Kaido appears, not to train, not to talk, but to teach the world how to lie down properly, while the enemy is still buffing their stats. Kaido has already finished fighting and is back to drink more. Yonko, Marine, Celestial Dragons. Sounds familiar, but let's fight together quickly. This isn't a journey to become stronger, but a journey where Kaido makes others weaker. The ultimate challenge begins with us. Awesome and entertaining. You'll be hooked. After Aokiji finished his work, he arrived at the Holy Land of Mariajua. In the Gorosei meeting room, upon seeing Aokiji arrive, Saint J. Garcia Saturn was the first to speak, inquiring, "Aokiji, you're in such a hurry to come here. Has the decision regarding the relocation of headquarters already been made?" "I'm sorry, after deliberation at our marine headquarters, we've decided not to accept your proposal." Aokiji calmly stated the Marine's decision. Upon hearing this, the Gorosei's eyes instantly darkened. Their proposal to the Marine was utterly terrible. To put it bluntly, it was just an order to the Marine, only they called it a proposal to sound more polite. The result: Aokiji arrived later and told them that the Navy had decided not to relocate its headquarters. The Gorosei interpreted this as the Navy openly defying their world government's orders. Saint J. Garcia Saturn, with a cold tone, questioned Aokiji, "We now seriously doubt whether you can win the position of Marine Admiral." "Then I also doubt whether you Gorosei can make the right decision," Aokiji retorted without hesitation, showing no respect for Saint J. Garcia Saturn. The temperature in the entire meeting room instantly plummeted. Facing the Gorosei's imposing presence, Aokiji showed no sign of yielding. Finally, Shepherd Repeater took the initiative to speak. "All right, the world government and the Navy are essentially family. There's no need for unnecessary conflict, otherwise it will only give the enemy an opportunity." Topman Valkyrie Saint reminded him, "Aokiji, you must understand your place. You are the Marine Admiral, and the Marine is one of the world government's structures. Without the world government, you, as an admiral, are nothing." "That's none of your business," Aokiji replied, already annoyed by the world government's arrogance. Marcus Marsden's cold gaze fell upon Aokiji, saying, "Aokiji, we Gorosei have the ability to replace you as Marine Admiral at any time, so don't be so arrogant, understand?" Then Baron V. Nasujiro Saint quickly waved his hand, signaling Aokiji to leave, saying, "Aokiji, go back to your work." "Then I'll take my leave," Aokiji replied, bowing and leaving the Gorosei meeting room. After Aokiji left, the Gorosei's expressions were extremely grim. The Navy had become incredibly powerful, especially Aokiji. Even the previous Admiral Sengoku, at least in front of the Gorosei, had been relatively low-key, so they could tolerate some things. But now Aokiji was different. He dared to openly disrespect the Gorosei in front of everyone. Moreover, they weren't wrong. Replacing Admiral Aokiji wouldn't be difficult for the Gorosei. It would only cause some minor trouble, which the world government could quickly quell. Saint J. Garcia Saturn opened his mouth and said, "This Aokiji kid is getting more and more disobedient. It seems Akinu is still more suitable to be the admiral. Talking about this now is useless. If we forcibly change the Marine's internal structure at this point, the resulting upheaval will be something even we cannot handle." Shepherd Repeater directly responded. After all, in Shepherd Repeater's view, since the Admiral has already been confirmed, there's no need for further changes. The final outcome might be even worse than the current situation. Saint J. Garcia Saturn also remained silent. He knew that forcibly interfering with the Marines could instantly cause a massive shock to even the world government, and the consequences would be immense. They themselves had no idea what the consequences would be. Then Baron V. Nasujiro Saint said coldly, "Leaving aside the Navy's problems, Kaido of the Beasts alone is enough to give us a headache. Furthermore, the Navy's unwillingness to relocate to the New World is probably also due to fear of Kaido of the Beasts." Topman Valkyrie Saint said disdainfully, "The Navy, a powerful force, retreating in the face of a single powerful pirate. Is that acceptable? Not relocating the Navy headquarters has its advantages. Let's quietly observe the situation first." Marcus Mars Saint stated his personal opinion. "Since the Navy has decided not to relocate, it's useless for the Gorosei to worry here. It's better to think about how to deal with the situation next. Saint J. Garcia Saturn shook his head regretfully and said that Sakazuki is truly a pity. He was the most suitable person for us to control, and also the most obedient dog, yet he fell into Kaido's trap, leading to him losing his qualification to compete for the position of Admiral. He's just stupid. In Saint J. Garcia Saturn's eyes, Akainu Sakazuki was also stupid. How else could this kind of situation have arisen? Ultimately, it's Akainu Sakazuki's own carelessness. On the other hand, even though he fell into their trap, the Gorosei didn't pursue the grave crime of personally killing a celestial dragon, which was already a great show of lenience. They would even provide Sakazuki with assistance, aiming to give him more strength to confront Kyuzen. After all, regardless of the strength of both sides, a mere admiral position is enough to overpower an admiral. As the Gorosei, they are all too aware of this. And then Baron V. Nasujiro tapped the scabbard of his sword against the ground and said, in the past 800 years, the world government has faced a crisis even greater than that of Nika the Sun God. It's truly ironic. That's right, Kaido of the Beast Clan isn't a member of the D Clan, yet his strength far surpasses the top-tier level of the D Clan, Topman Valkyrie Saint replied with a similarly grim expression. Saint J. Garcia Saturn said, once the new Vegapunk Pacifista is successfully created, we'll begin our attack. At the same time, Aokiji, who had just emerged from the Holy Land of Muriajua, also breathed a sigh of relief. To be honest, he had almost clashed with the Gorosei, but in the end, the Gorosei didn't cause him any trouble. This meant that the Gorosei themselves were also under immense pressure. And a large part of this pressure undoubtedly came from Kaido of the Beasts. There was no doubt about that. Wano Country, Onigashima. Flame Air King approached Kaido and respectfully inquired, Mr. Kaido, what is the purpose of your trip to the North Sea this time? Just to confirm something, to see if it can be successful? Kaido didn't fully answer. He wanted to go to the Vinsmoke clan to see if their artificial soldiers could provide life force factors. If they could, Kaido planned to bring the entire Germa 66 under his control, having them specialize in creating artificial soldiers to provide him with life force factors. Yes, Flame Ear King didn't ask any further questions. Basically, Mr. Kaido would call him whenever he wanted to do something, so he naturally knew the purpose once they reached their destination. Then, Kaido transformed into his Azure Dragon form, and the Flame King transformed into his Pteranodon form, flying together towards the North Sea. Meanwhile, far away in the North Sea, the Vinsmoke family were unaware they were being tracked by Kaido. In the Germa 66 war room, the Vinsmoke family sat together eating. After taking a bite of meat, Vinsmoke Niji chuckled and said, Sanji, that kid has become a pirate. He even made it to the battlefield of a summit war. Haha, who says he isn't? I thought he was dead, but I didn't expect him to still be alive. Vinsmoke Yanji was somewhat surprised that Sanji was still alive. Vinsmoke Ichiji said, so what if he's alive? It doesn't affect us much. He's just a failure anyway. Vinsmoke Ryu, the older sister, thought to herself helplessly, those three brothers really don't have any affection for Sanji at all. Actually, I'm powerless about this kind of thing. It's best to just let things take their natural course, as long as Sanji is alright. That's what Vinsmoke Ryu thought. As for other things, she didn't think too much about them, because the Germa method itself wasn't suitable for Sanji. If Sanji returned to the family, his life would only get worse. Vinsmoke Ryu was very clear about that. Sitting in the main seat, Vinsmoke Judge said coldly, don't bother with that Sanji kid. He's just a useless piece of trash. On the other hand, we should also increase our speed. After all, the enemy has made a considerable deposit, so we must help them quickly conquer that kingdom. In Vinsmoke Judge's eyes, the failed Sanji was essentially worthless, as he had absolutely no exploitable value. War was the main source of income for Germa 66. Vinsmoke Yanji laughed heartily, saying, Father is right, we don't need to pay attention to a useless person. Even if he becomes a pirate, what difference does it make? Vinsmoke Niji and Vinsmoke Ichiji both showed disdainful looks. They didn't even consider Sanji a threat. As for Sanji becoming a pirate, they thought it was just good luck. At the same time, above Germa 66's war room, an enormous azure dragon appeared in the sky, with a pteranodon circling around its head. King Inflamed Ear looked down at Germa 66's war room and said, Mr. Kaido, we've arrived. This is Germa 66, the renowned Vinsmoke clan of the North Sea. I wonder what their strength is like? Their strength is nothing special, just something I've seen before. My goal is to bring back their technological level, so that Queen and Caesar can conduct research together. Kaido calmly replied. Inside Germa 66's war room, an artificial soldier rushed into the dining hall, shouting, "Commander, it's terrible. A gigantic azure dragon has appeared in the sky above us, covering the entire heavens." What? Vinsmoke Judge was also stunned. A gigantic azure dragon. Vinsmoke Ryu's eyes widened in disbelief, saying, "A gigantic azure dragon. Could it be the Yonko Kaido? No one else could transform into such a gigantic azure dragon." According to Vinsmoke Ryu's words, everyone present widened their eyes in astonishment. Who was Kaido of the 100 Beasts? They knew perfectly well that he was the strongest, invincible being in the world right now. Neither the Navy nor the world government could do anything against him. So how could he appear in their sky? This was the North Sea, not the New World. Vinsmoke Judge immediately realized the worst was about to happen and hurriedly said, "Hurry up and attack with me. We might be in big trouble." Besides Vinsmoke Judge's worrying, Vinsmoke Ryu was also equally worried. As for Vinsmoke Ichiji, Vinsmoke Niji, and Vinsmoke Yanji and the other two were completely devoid of emotion and didn't care about such things because they themselves were emotionless and didn't know what fear was. These were completely transformed, emotionless war machines whose personalities had been formed. When Vinsmoke Judge brought his son and daughter outside, they indeed saw the Azure Dragon, over 1,000 meters long, circling in the air. Vinsmoke Judge's scalp tingled, and he whispered, "Damn it, how did Kaido of the 100 Beasts set his sights on us? Being targeted by this kind of monster, we're doomed. I haven't even achieved my dream of unifying the North Sea yet, and now it's all over. It's truly amazing. Observing it up close is so breathtaking," Vinsmoke Ichiji commented in disbelief. Vinsmoke Niji and Vinsmoke Yanji both nodded in agreement. It was indeed true. Observing the Azure Dragon circling in the sky from such close proximity was truly breathtaking. Ryu, trembling with fear, reminded him, "Father, no matter what, we must first find out what Kaido of the Beast's purpose is in coming here. What if it's because of our inadequate hospitality, then?" Right. After Vinsmoke Judge recovered, he repeatedly said yes, as he was also stunned with fear and didn't know how to respond. Kaido's dragon head slowly lowered, emitting a deafening sound. Vinsmoke Judge. Lord Kaido, I'm here. May I ask why you've traveled all the way to the North Sea?" Vinsmoke Judge asked anxiously, his scalp tingling. At the same time, deep down, he was constantly worried that Kaido of the Beasts couldn't possibly be here to destroy Germa 66. Kaido didn't directly answer Vinsmoke. Judge, wielding the power of the Edo Nomi, fired several branches at the Germa 66 warship, instantly piercing several artificial soldiers. Seeing this, Vinsmoke Judge's heart sank. Vinsmoke Ryu was equally worried. Could Germa 66 be annihilated today? However, this was also good. At least they could escape. As for the three Vinsmoke brothers, they felt nothing. As Kaido devoured the artificial soldiers, he discovered that these artificial soldiers also possessed life force, though the amount was not as much as that of real humans. It was roughly only half or about a third of the amount. Although the amount was small, it indicated that he could utilize many artificial soldiers to provide the life force Kaido needed for his Rinnegan. As it has been confirmed that artificial soldiers can provide a life force multiplier, then Germa 66 can be acquired. Kaido slowly opened his mouth and said, "Vinsmoke Judge, listen. I'm giving you a choice now. Join the Beast Pirates. If you refuse, you know the consequences. You have 10 seconds to consider." Kaido knew that Vinsmoke Judge was a coward, so he would definitely choose to join the Beast Pirates. Vinsmoke Judge, who had initially been terrified, instantly became excited. Join the Beast Pirates. This was the world's strongest pirate crew leader. An existence that could suppress even the Navy and the world government? If he agreed to join, he would have the chance to unify the North Sea. Vinsmoke Judge hastily replied, "Lord Kaido, I am willing to join the Beast Pirates and become one of your forces. This is a great opportunity." Vinsmoke Judge wouldn't dare miss it. Vinsmoke Ryu, on the other hand, couldn't help but sigh in relief. Who would want to die if they could avoid it? Survival is naturally the best outcome. The three Vinsmoke brothers then started joking. Vinsmoke Niji laughed and said, "It's like we successfully escaped another life." Who says so? But joining the Beast Pirates seems quite interesting. Vinsmoke Yonji also laughed in response. Vinsmoke Ichiji said, "This shows we still have value that a big shot would notice." Kaido and the Flame King left their beast forms and landed in Germa 66's war room. Kaido commanded, "Vinsmoke Judge, take me to see your artificial soldier equipment." "Alright, Lord Kaido," Vinsmoke Judge understood. It turned out that Lord Kaido had his eye on their artificial soldiers. But that was understandable. Artificial soldiers were one of Vinsmoke Judge's proudest possessions, his greatest pride being his daughter and son, who were the masterpieces of the highest bloodline. As for artificial soldiers, they could produce as many as they wanted, so there was no need to be too upset. As long as there was sufficient funding, they could continuously increase the production. When Vinsmoke Judge led Kaido and Flame King into Germa 66's large research facility, they saw artificial soldier equipment everywhere. Flame King's anger flared up. This scene brought back unpleasant memories for the inflamed Ear King, memories that had once been bad. This immediately affected King's condition. Kaido patted King on the shoulder and said, "You'll see a different world." "I'm fine, Mr. Kaido. You don't need to worry," replied King of Flame Ears. "I look forward to changing the world after that day comes." Vinsmoke Judge didn't dare interrupt the conversation between Lord Kaido and King of Flame Ears. If he angered Lord Kaido, he'd be finished. Kaido said contentedly, "All the Germa 66 war chambers will be brought back to Wano later. Then you can devote all your energy to creating artificial soldiers, don't worry about money." "Yes, Lord Kaido," Vinsmoke Judge dared not say no. After all, whatever Lord Kaido said was law. Judge, being transparent, having joined the Beast Pirates, affirmed that many things were beyond his control. Vinsmoke Judge cautiously pleaded, "Lord Kaido, I have a small request. Could you please help me unify the North Sea?" "Ha ha ha," Kaido replied with a smile. "I can, but that's for later, not now. I don't have time right now." "Thank you very much, Lord Kaido." Although it was Lord Kaido's verbal agreement, Vinsmoke Judge was still extremely happy. At least there was hope. This scene filled Vinsmoke Judge with admiration. He truly lived up to his reputation as Kaido, the world's strongest creature, a versatile, all-around, all-powerful god of war. With such a powerful Lord Kaido under his command, Vinsmoke Judge felt he no longer needed to worry about the world government's threat. Because in this summit war, even the combined forces of the Navy and the world government couldn't defeat Lord Kaido. Now that Vinsmoke Judge had joined Lord Kaido's ranks, why should he fear or worry about the world government's threat? Absolutely not, in Vinsmoke Judge's view. However, Vinsmoke Judge also began to harbor ulterior motives. Simply joining Lord Kaido's ranks felt insufficient. He absolutely had to devise a permanent solution. What if Lord Kaido used him up and kicked him out? Vinsmoke Judge was extremely worried about this. Therefore, he needed to find a way to solve this problem early on, so he wouldn't have any worries later. So, after considering various options, Vinsmoke Judge finally thought of his daughter. How to win over the most powerful man in the world. He needed to approach it from multiple angles, and using a woman was one of those methods. Vinsmoke Judge found his daughter, and Vinsmoke Ryu was also very suspicious. Why would her father suddenly seek her out? Vinsmoke Ryu inquired, "Father, you seem so anxious to see me. Is there something you need?" There is indeed something only you can accomplish. If you handle it successfully, our Vinsmoke family will benefit greatly." Vinsmoke Judge slowly stated his purpose. As his daughter, Vinsmoke Ryu had already roughly guessed what her father wanted her to do, but it was also predictable. After all, she had already considered this kind of fate. So Vinsmoke Ryu replied, "Father, you want me to become Lord Kaido's woman. This way, we can ensure the stable development of our Vinsmoke family." "You guessed it, huh? Well, I won't lie to you. Indeed, that's exactly what I planned. And the only person capable of achieving this is you, my daughter." Vinsmoke Judge also hoped his daughter would be more reasonable, so that their Vinsmoke family could achieve even greater prosperity. Vinsmoke Ryu revealed a smile and said, "Leave this matter to me, father. You can rest assured and attend to Lord Kaido's instructions. It's so good that you understand. Vinsmoke. Judge was very pleased that his daughter could make such a correct decision. In fact, Vinsmoke. Judge didn't know that his daughter Ryu knew that refusing was pointless. Even if he refused, Vinsmoke, Judge wouldn't agree. So it was better to accept. Besides, their genes made it impossible to refuse their father Vinsmoke. Judge's orders. Vinsmoke. Judge nodded slightly and said, "All right, I'll go attend to my duties first. I'll arrange your affairs later." Father Vinsmoke. After Judge left, Ryu sat alone on a chair, lost in thought, muttering to herself, following Lord Kaido, "I shouldn't be too wronged." Meanwhile, the three Vinsmoke brothers were sparring with the Flame King. The Flame King admired the Vinsmoke's battlesuits, saying, "Your battlesuits are truly extraordinary." After the battle, the Flame King realized that it would be very difficult for him to capture the three Vinsmoke brothers alone. It was basically impossible, as technological power truly had its advantages. If they were alone, the Flame King wouldn't even consider them a threat. Overall, the three brothers' strength was close to that of the Flying Six, excluding Enel. Therefore, Mr. Kaido bringing the Vinsmoke family under his wing could be considered a significant boost to the overall fighting power of the Beast Pirates. Ichiji pulled back a little, opening his mouth to say, "As expected of Mr. King, even the three of us brothers combined couldn't defeat you." Indeed, very strong, Lord Kaido's subordinates are truly something else. Vinsmoke Niji also responded admiringly. Vinsmoke Yanji also nodded in agreement. The Flame Air King sheathed his katana and said, "The three of you have very good strength, especially your physical strength is extraordinarily astonishing. The results of the bloodline factor modification have given you very good fighting power from the start." While saying this, the Flame Air King also thought of his own family. Their clan also had an astonishing bloodline advantage. One could say they were born with strong fighting power. This was similar to the three brothers born from the Vinsmoke family, who were born from the bloodline factor. 3 days later, Germa 66, its warship pulled by a cloud of light, slowly descended over Wano, landing beside Onigashima. Queen and Caesar were already waiting there, having received orders to await Germa 66's arrival. Queen, puffing on a cigar, chuckled and said, "That bastard Judge wants to join us too. That makes it 3 of our scientists from back then." "Who says so? As long as we don't want that bastard Vegapunk," Caesar retorted, still harboring strong resentment towards Vegapunk. As Germa 66 landed on the shores of Onigashima, Kaido emerged first, and Queen and Caesar hurried forward to greet him. Queen, with a beaming smile, respectfully said, "Welcome back, Lord Kaido." At that time, you two can discuss it with Judge. I've already told him what you want to focus on researching, and King will arrange the rest." After giving his instructions, Kaido activated his Rinnegan and flew away. Everyone respectfully watched Lord Kaido leave. Lord Kaido was now their idol. As long as Lord Kaido was around, the Beast Pirates could remain invincible and truly dominate the entire world. Caesar said admiringly, "Lord Kaido, your abilities are growing day by day. You're truly great." Vinsmoke Judge walked over to Queen Caesar, and the three of them immediately came face to face. Vinsmoke Judge smiled and said, "Caesar, you're amazing. I didn't expect you to join the Beast Pirates. HMPH, you're the same, aren't you? Joining the Beast Pirates is our honor." Caesar snorted first, then became extremely respectful when mentioning Lord Kaido. Meanwhile, the Flame Calamity King said, "Judge, you stay behind to discuss with Queen and Caesar. The rest of you follow me." The Flame Calamity King pointed his finger at Vinsmoke, Ryu, Ichiji, Niji, and Yanji. Ryu and the other 3 obediently followed the Flame Calamity King, who made other arrangements for them. As for Vinsmoke Judge, he was specifically assigned to conduct research with Queen and Caesar. Immediately, only Queen, Caesar, and Judge remained. Queen, smoking a cigar, inquired, "Judge, Lord Kaido deliberately brought you to join the Beast Pirates. What is he mainly interested in researching?" This was what Queen cared about most right now, even though he was one of the Beast Pirates' 3 calamities. "But I am also afraid of losing Lord Kaido's favor." Vinsmoke Judge replied, "There's no need for any deliberate research. Just focus on mass-producing artificial soldiers. You just need to cooperate with me. I can also cooperate with you on other research, but the main focus should be on creating artificial soldiers." Vinsmoke Judge's words stunned both Queen and Caesar. Caesar asked, "Isn't that right? What's the point of mass-producing artificial soldiers? It would be better to research viruses. Then we could create weapons with immense destructive power. Since Lord Kaido has given such instructions, we'll just follow them. Caesar, don't displease Lord Kaido." Although Queen didn't understand the meaning of Lord Kaido's orders, since Lord Kaido had given them such instructions, they would do as instructed. This was the only way to satisfy Lord Kaido. Caesar, upon hearing this, reacted quickly. He couldn't displease Lord Kaido. If that happened, he would have no way out. Judge replied, "It seems it's not for combat, but rather something Lord Kaido needs. I'm not entirely sure of the reason. I know roughly what's going on." Queen immediately thought of Lord Kaido's other devil fruit ability, which had previously devoured a large number of marine soldiers. Therefore, the need to create soldiers from these people must be largely related to this. If that's the case, then he must complete Lord Kaido's mission with utmost care, without the slightest negligence. Regarding the news of Germa 66 joining the Beast Pirates, then smoke of the North Sea also reached the ears of the Navy and the world government. The Marine headquarters in Marineford, after months of repairs, was slowly recovering. In the Admiral's office, Aokiji rubbed his aching temples and said, "Germa 66 has joined the Beast Pirates. If this continues, who knows how much Kaido's power will expand? That's terrifying, of course. We can't do anything about it. After all, we're facing Kaido of the Beast Pirates." Kizaru replied dismissively, waving his hand. Fujitora Isho, sitting beside him, slowly said, "But we can't just sit here and wait to die. We must come up with ways to counter Kaido. Otherwise, as time goes on, our navy will become increasingly passive." "Fujitora, you're right." Aokiji agreed with Fujitora Isho's statement, as he himself had similar calculations. Kizaru, sharpening his razor, said contemptuously, "I think the best approach is to let the new world descend into chaos with pirates slaughtering each other. Only then will we have a chance." "I also agree with Admiral Kizaru's suggestion," Fujitora Isho replied. At this moment, a Marine colonel rushed in, breathless, reporting, "Marshal Aokiji, our investigation has revealed the 100 Beasts pirate crew's movements. We suspect their target is Hachinosu Island." Hachinosu Island, that seems to be Okoku territory. Aokiji immediately realized that Hachinosu Island was Okoku territory. Kizaru, with a cowardly expression, said, "How terrifying. It's truly a case of one wave being leveled and another rising up." Just as Aokiji was about to give orders, another person entered through the gate. It was Admiral Akainu. Aokiji's face darkened, and he said in a low voice, "Sakazuki, Kyuzin, regarding the Hachinosu Island incident in the New World, I will personally take action to suppress it." Akainu stated his purpose directly. There was no other way. After all, Aokiji was the admiral, and Akainu had no choice but to come here. Otherwise, Akainu really wouldn't have thought of coming. Aokiji immediately refused without a second thought, saying, "Sakazuki, I don't agree with your intention to take action. If Kaido wants to find Okoku, let him go find him. Kyuzin, with your attitude, you will only cause the Marine's reputation to continue to decline. You are simply incapable of leading the Marines." Akainu was also furious, knowing that Kyuzin, that bastard, wouldn't agree to his decision. Akainu slightly waved his hand, turned around, and said, "Whether you agree or not, I, the old man, am going to the New World. Sakazuki, you can leave, but if you disobey orders afterward, you'll have to deal with the consequences yourself." Aokiji's tone became even harsher, giving Akainu no face at all. Kizaru, meanwhile, continued trimming his nails, pretending not to see anything. Fujitora Isho also remained silent, being caught in the middle. It was best for him to keep quiet and avoid unnecessary trouble. Aokiji's tone became even more forceful. "Sakazuki, you've repeatedly disobeyed orders. You should understand that you're an admiral, not a marshal. I am the marshal. Kyuzin, you will regret this." Akainu turned and left, slamming the door shut. Clan Akainu was now seething with anger, desperately wanting to fight Aokiji directly, but he didn't want to ruin his future. Even if he couldn't become a Marine admiral, at least he could still have the support of the Gorosei. Therefore, he still had influence within the Marines and could continue to oppose Aokiji, but not openly. He needed to do it in secret. In the meeting room, Fujitora Isho calmly suggested, Marshal Aokiji, your conflict with Admiral Akenu like this seems to have a significant impact on the stability of the Marines. Fujitora Isho was also someone who dared to say anything. Aokiji reluctantly shook his head and replied, Fujitora, you've just joined the Navy. There are some things you don't understand. Sakazuki and I have had long-standing disagreements. And what angers me most is that the Gorosei have been secretly supporting Sakazuki all along. And they want to compete with me, the Admiral, for power and profit, internal strife, and external threats. Aokiji sighed, showing his utter helplessness. Kizura still wore a smug expression. He didn't want to get involved in such matters, as it was a complete waste of time and effort. Therefore, pretending to know nothing was the most direct and least troublesome approach. Meanwhile, in the New World, Kaido, leading the Flame King, Jack the Drought, and 4 members of the Flying Six, set out towards Hachinosu Island without any reservations along the way. This might lead to news spreading, but Kaido basically doesn't care about that. On the ship, Enel, eating an apple with a deadpan expression, said, when the time comes, leave that Okoku to me to fight. Idiot, you're no match for Okoku. Don't make a fool of yourself in front of everyone. Jack pointed his finger directly at Enel and began to speak. Who's Who Smoking said, I guess all the forces have already received news of our deployment. Never mind, we have Lord Kaido himself backing us up. Whoever comes will die, Page 1 said arrogantly. According to Page 1, with Lord Kaido himself backing them up, no matter who the enemy was, Lord Kaido could easily subdue them. Kaido sat in the main seat, eyes closed, meditating. As for their conversation, he didn't hear them at all. The Flame King sternly rebuked, all of you be quiet. Mr. Kaido is resting. If you disturb him, you will all be punished. At the Flame King's words, Jack the Drought, Enel, Who's Who, The Wood, and Page 1 all instantly fell silent. They didn't dare disturb Lord Kaido. What if Lord Kaido got angry? The consequences were unimaginable. One blow from the staff would result in at least a year in the hospital. Somewhere in the New World, on an island, the Blackbeard pirates were on land. Blackbeard Teach, enraged, shouted, disgusting. How could Kaido set his sights on Hachinosu Island? I was already considering making Hachinosu Island my future base. Hey ha ha ha, Burgess chuckled, asking, Captain Teach, what should we do now? Should we also head straight for Hachinosu Island? Bastard, are you tired of living? Blackbeard Teach immediately glared at Burgess with a vicious look. This bastard had to utter such brainless words. Shiryu of the Rain, puffing on his cigar and wiping his weapon clean, said, since that's the case, we'll have to abandon Hachinosu Island, our base. We can't afford to offend Kaido. It's all fate. Van Augur, like a fortune teller, spoke of fate. The corrupt king grumbled, we're really miserable. We don't dare offend Whitebeard, yet we're afraid of Kaido. It's truly hard to survive. Teach, as the captain, aren't you going to take a stand? Hey, Blackbeard Teach, though inwardly terrified, also chuckled, you little rascals, are you scared? We need to wait for the right opportunity. As soon as the time is ripe, we can seize the throne in one fell swoop. We hope so. Devon, the nine-tailed fox, licked his lips in response. The drunkard, still drinking, said, it doesn't matter. After all, we were imprisoned in Impel Down's infinite hell for so long before. At least now we're free. Lafitte paced around, holding his sword, his face pale, and slowly said, we absolutely cannot afford to clash with the beast pirates now, otherwise we'll all die without a proper burial place. Lafitte is right, you little rascals can't do anything stupid. We have to wait for the right opportunity. Blackbeard Teach also strongly agreed with Lafitte's words. At least, Lafitte understood him, knowing that speaking on his behalf as captain was different from Burgess, who was loyal but lacked intelligence. Furthermore, Blackbeard Teach wasn't afraid of missing opportunities. As long as he was alive, he could wait for the right moment, and there would always be a chance. Once the opportunity arose, Blackbeard Teach wouldn't hesitate to act, just like he stole the yummy yummy nomi from the great Buddha fruit. Doc Q, looking frail and sickly on horseback, said, it's truly a pity. Captain Teach really wanted to acquire Hachinosu Island to lose the opportunity like this. Ha ha ha, Blackbeard Teach waved his hand, laughing as he said, it's nothing. Many people want to bring Kaido down. The opportunity will come. You little rascals, let's drink. Worrying is useless. Blackbeard Teach could only act like this to hide his fear of Kaido, the Beast King. There was no other way. Kaido's strength was far more terrifying than Whitebeard, Hachinosu Island. Okoku, the leader of the pirate group, gathered together. One of the pirates anxiously said, "Boss Okoku, Kaido of the 100 Beasts and his men are heading towards Hachinosu Island. What should we do? We can't just wait to die here, can we?" Their worries weren't unfounded. Everyone knew that Kaido of the 100 Beasts was the strongest being, an invincible force that even the combined forces of the Navy and the world government could defeat. They didn't believe they could stand against Kaido. The only outcome would be certain death. It wasn't just these pirates whose faces were grim. Okoku's expression was equally somber. Okoku clenched his fists and whispered, "That bastard Kaido. Back then he was just an apprentice on the Rocks pirate ship, and now he's reached this level. What exactly went wrong? Why did Kaido acquire such immense power?" He remembered that back then they were both on the Rocks pirate ship, and Okoku himself was already a Rocks pirate's officer, while Kaido was just an apprentice. Even later, Kaido became one of the 4 emperors. Just like Whitebeard, Okoku didn't think much of it, since Kaido himself had that potential. The problem was that Kaido's current strength far exceeded all expectations. It was simply not the kind of power a human should possess. Even the Rocks didn't have such strength. But Kaido is currently heading straight for Hachinosu Island to kill them, making a battle unavoidable unless Okoku himself chooses to surrender. However, Okoku is unwilling to surrender to Kaido. Since the Rocks pirate crew disbanded, Okoku has been a free man. Why would he want to become someone else's subordinate, especially a subordinate of someone who was once new to him? Even if Kaido achieved great success, Okoku would still not agree to such a thing. A pirate hurriedly pointed his finger towards the sky and shouted, "Boss Okoku, Kaido of the 100 Beasts is coming." Following the pirate's shout, Okoku and his crew all looked up and indeed saw a ship flying the 100 Beasts pirate's flag floating in the air. Okoku's expression darkened as he said, "Damn Kaido, you arrived even faster than I imagined." As the ship slowly descended under the control of the fiery clouds, Okoku saw Kaido leading the way out. Kaido, with a calm expression and his arms crossed, said nonchalantly, "Okoku, it's been decades since we last met." "Kaido, you suddenly showing up here, what's the matter?" Okoku retorted. Honestly, Okoku didn't want to clash with Kaido of the 100 Beasts. The losses would be too great for him, and it wouldn't have any meaning. He'd rather avoid it if possible. Kaido smirked mockingly. "Okoku, you've been a pirate for so many years. Can't you see why I'm here?" Disgusting. Okoku gritted his teeth. This time, there was no avoiding it, and a fight was inevitable. Okoku's eyes darted around, trying to dodge. In this situation, he had to consider how to escape. To be honest, after seeing Kaido of the 100 Beasts, Okoku knew he was no match for him, especially with such a huge difference in strength. Before arriving, Okoku had only heard rumors, clinging to a glimmer of hope, wondering if Kaido of the 100 Beasts was truly that powerful. Now, it seemed the rumors were true. Okoku could sense an unusually terrifying aura emanating from Kaido. Kaido calmly commanded, "Go, King and Enel team up to deal with Okoku." After all, this old man still has some strength. Yes, Lord Kaido, Flame King, Drought Jack, Enel, Who's Who, Wid, Page 1, and others replied respectfully. This was the combat mission Lord Kaido had assigned them. Okoku, hearing this, angrily shouted, "Damn Kaido! You little apprentice brat from back then, how dare you look down on me like this? And you're even letting your subordinates fight me." Okoku was simply furious, completely humiliated by that bastard Kaido of the Beasts. Just as Okoku was about to charge forward, Enel had already kicked him in the face. Lightning kick. Seeing this, Okoku had no choice but to raise his arm, covering it with Bisashoko Haki to block Enel's attack. Bang! After one attack, Enel widened the distance. That earlier move was merely to gauge Okoku's strength. Enel said, "This old man's strength is still considerable." The Flame King drew out his katana and swung it at Okoku repeatedly. Okoku kept both hands covered in Bisashoko Haki, constantly blocking the Flame King's swings. Enel was also waiting for an opportunity to launch a sneak attack, forcing Okoku to constantly be on guard against Enel's sneak attack. In any case, Both King Inflammatory and Enel possess considerable power, and Okoku is no longer young, having endured such prolonged battles. The consumption will also be enormous. Kaido wasn't idle either. His hand pressed against the ground in an instant, and the power of the Edo Nomi fruit continuously spread outwards. Immediately, countless branches shot out from the ground, launching an attack on the pirate island. The pirate screams of agony echoed everywhere. Okoku was helpless against this. Dealing with the Flame King and Enel alone was already exhausting enough. On the other side, Jack the Drought, along with Who's Who Shikamaru and Page 1, launched an attack on Okoku's subordinates. Kaido directly harvested the low-level pirates, continuously devouring their life force. This was Kaido's most important objective. As for Okoku, it remained to be seen what he would ultimately choose. If Okoku chose to surrender, Kaido wouldn't mind accepting him. Although Okoku was old, his strength remained considerable. Even in his old age, he possessed at least 10 times the combat power of an admiral. Okoku watched Kaido relentlessly slaughtering the pirates on the island, his eyes filled with furious anger as he shouted, "Kaido, you bastard! You're so high-ranking, yet you're still slaughtering ordinary pirates. Old man, fighting against me, and you still dare to have ulterior motives?" Enel seized the opportunity and directly unleashed a Goro no Mi attack on Okoku. Boom! Okoku was in critical condition. He had used Bisashoku Haki to neutralize most of the lightning attack's power, but facing the destructive force of the Goro no Mi, he would have at least lost a layer of skin. Okoku slightly swung his arm, leaping to create distance, his expression grim as he muttered, "I didn't expect these two individuals to be so incredibly powerful. I need to be even more careful." After several rounds of sparring, Okoku realized that the Flame King possessed at least his own strength, and the other user of the Goro no Mi was also on par with him. This was truly the greatest crisis he'd faced in all these years. Even Kaido, the strongest of the beast pirates, hadn't made a move yet, and he was already being targeted. If this continued, the only outcome would be death. Okoku didn't want to die here. He had to find a way out. He wondered if his earlier plea for help had been answered. If it was, at least there was still a chance. If there is no response, then there are truly two paths left. Either submit to Kaido or be killed by Kaido. Neither of these two sides truly desired Okoku. What he wanted was freedom. During their constant clashes, the Flame King, noticing the subtle changes in Okoku's expression, questioned, "Okoku, what are you thinking? Do you still want to resist Mr. Kaido at this point? Disgusting. When I was famous on this vast ocean, you were still somewhere breastfeeding." Okoku, being a man of great temper, naturally retorted, "Your captain, Kaido, is also a petty person. What's so great about attacking ordinary pirates? You can't judge Mr. Kaido yet. Make your choice, Okoku." The Flame King began to increase the intensity of his attacks, showing no intention of holding back. Okoku, with both hands wielding the Sashoku Haki, didn't bother to dispel it, constantly counterattacking and switching between attacks. 30 million volt Thunderbird. Just as Okoku had widened the distance between himself and the Flame King, before he could even catch his breath, a Thunderbird descended from above. Damn it! Okoku didn't have time to think, and immediately used Bisashoku Haki to defend himself. Up to this point, Okoku had been extremely frustrated. Not only had Kaido not personally intervened, but he was also being restrained by two of Kaido's subordinates, and very tightly at that. He felt as if he was even at a disadvantage, which made Okoku extremely angry and frustrated. Suddenly, Okoku saw a weakness in the Flame King and immediately punched him. Bang! Okoku, enveloped in Bisashoku Haki, aggressively punched the Flame King in the chest, revealing a satisfied smile as he said, "Kid, you're still too overconfident." Just as Okoku finished speaking, the Flame King kicked Okoku in the stomach. Caught off guard, Okoku was sent flying, tumbling several times on the ground before finally stopping. Okoku, his face unusually grim, knew from this exchange that he had been tricked. His punches had caused no effective damage to the Flame King. Instead, he had been sent flying. While Okoku was pondering why his attacks had no effect on the Flame King, Enel appeared above Okoku's head. Even though Okoku hastily used both hands to protect his head, this hateful fly dared to launch such a boring sneak attack. This Enel, a user of the Goro no Mi devil fruit, made Okoku extremely annoyed. 16 million volt Thunder Dragon. Enel unleashed a powerful Thunder Dragon attack, fiercely striking Okoku's body. Boom! The entire ground cracked due to the attack. Enel smirked mockingly, saying, "Old man, even if you use Bisashoku Haki for defense, the destructive power of my Goro Goro no Mi isn't so easily neutralized." Enel was extremely confident in the attack power of his Goro Goro no Mi. Even if this old man Okoku continuously used Bisashoku Haki for defense, what could he do? As time passed, the sheer wear and tear alone would be enough to kill him. Before the mist from the attack had dissipated, the Flame Calamity King leapt into the air. The Flame King paused in midair, beginning to gather his most powerful attack. Fire Dragon Emperor. The Flame King first enveloped his samurai sword in flames, then unleashed an Eastern dragon-shaped flame through the sword, the scorching flame resembling molten lava. Okoku stared intently at the Flame King's attack, whispering, "This kind of flame-infused power, a Lunarian's ability, stop." Okoku was completely covered in Bisashoku Haki, intending to withstand the Flame King's attack head-on. The enormous fire dragons had slammed into Okoku. Boom! Not far away, Okoku's subordinates, who were fighting, hurriedly shouted, "Boss Okoku, who told you to keep looking around?" Jack the Drought, in his mammoth form, charged fiercely at Okoku's subordinates. Following the Flame King's attack, Enel also completed his power gathering. Enel laughed maniacally, saying, "Hey, old man, you're definitely going to die. Under this attack of mine, let's see if you can still survive." 200 million volt lightning strike. A huge lightning ball, under Enel's control, slammed down on Okoku, who was engulfed in flames below. Boom! After the Flame King and Enel each unleashed their strongest attacks, they both stopped, preparing to assess the situation before acting. As the explosion's smoke slowly dissipated, Okoku, whose entire body was covered in black smoke and looked like it had been burned to a crisp, was revealed. At this moment, Okoku's surface appeared burnt, but in reality, it had suffered serious injuries. Okoku couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood, and just as it was about to speak, a branch instantly pierced through his body. Okoku, unable to believe his eyes, lowered his head to look at the branch in his chest, and said with difficulty, "What is this? Am I going to end here?" Okoku was extremely unwilling. He didn't want to retreat like this. He hadn't yet enjoyed a comfortable time. The Flame Air King and Enel respectfully retreated to either side of Kaido. Kaido continued walking towards Okoku, and when he reached Okoku, he calmly said, "Okoku, although you are old, considering you can provide me with a massive amount of life force, I will let you die with dignity." Haha! Okoku felt his life force draining away at an extremely rapid pace, and sighed, "I never thought Okoku, would finally die at your hands, Kaido." Captain Rock's wish was not fulfilled back then. "I trust you can certainly accomplish this, Kaido." Kaido ignored Okoku's exclamations. This was Kaido deliberately slowing down the rate at which he was devouring Okoku's life force. It wouldn't take less than 10 seconds to completely devour Okoku. Just as Okoku was about to completely lose all signs of life, Kaido stepped forward and pressed down on Okoku's head. Kaido's right eye transformed into the Rinnegan, and as the Rinnegan emitted light, Okoku's soul was directly extracted by Kaido, and Okoku completely lost all signs of life. Behind him, King Yen and Enel both showed expressions of disbelief, completely shocked. Enel's eyes widened in disbelief as he said, "Was that really just a soul extraction? I never imagined Mr. Kaido possessed such power." King Yan's respect for Mr. Kaido was beyond words. The remaining pirates were also devoured by the tree branch, their life force completely drained. Jack the Drought laughed. "These guys are just a bunch of weaklings in front of Lord Kaido." After Kaido extracted Okoku's soul and absorbed his memories, the Rinnegan's abilities made Kaido very satisfied and extremely practical. At the same time, Kaido also knew that this Okoku guy was secretly contacting Blackbeard Teach, which was really interesting. He wondered if Blackbeard Teach would dare to come here. 6 seconds later, Enel suddenly looked towards the distant sea and said, "Lord Kaido, someone is coming. Their purpose is probably to scavenge for loot. Who is it they dare to come and scavenge for loot? Let me go and eliminate them." Jack the Drought volunteered to fight. They really had a death wish. They dared to come and scavenge the spoils of war from the beast pirates. Enel's Kanban Shoku Haki, with its thunderous power, had an incredibly wide range of perception. In other words, the opponent was still some distance away. The Flame Air King's wings unfolded, preparing to fly away. Kaido gestured for King to stop, saying, "Don't worry about it." The person coming is Blackbeard Teach, the king of scavenging for scraps. Judging by the situation, he probably won't dare come any closer. Let this new world wind blow for a while first. I'll deal with these matters step by step later. Yes, Mr. Kaido, the Flame Air King respectfully replied. Kaido's reason for letting Blackbeard Teach go was primarily for amusement. He wanted to see what kind of trouble Blackbeard Teach could stir up while Whitebeard was still alive. That was what piqued Kaido's curiosity. As for dealing with Blackbeard Teach, for Kaido, it was simply a matter of taking up a little time. At the same time, Blackbeard Teach, along with his subordinates, entered the Cake Island area outside the city. Then Augur retracted his telescope and said, "The battle on Hachinosu Island is over." There's no doubt Kaido easily wiped out Okoku. Disgusting. Blackbeard Teach gritted his teeth and roared angrily. Hachinosu Island had always been Blackbeard Teach's most coveted base, but Kaido's sudden actions had completely disrupted his plans. Initially, Blackbeard Teach didn't dare go there, but then that bastard Okoku contacted him. So Blackbeard Teach, hoping for some luck, decided to try his luck at Hachinosu Island. After all, Hachinosu Island was still quite far from Wano country, and Kaido of the Beast Pirates was unlikely to establish a foothold there. Of course, it wasn't impossible that Kaido chose to establish a base on Hachinosu Island, similar to a branch. But now was the most frustrating moment for Blackbeard Teach. Okoku was defeated without Kaido of the Beasts even having to personally intervene. If Kaido of the Beasts were to personally intervene, wouldn't that mean he could instantly annihilate Okoku? Currently, Kaido of the Beasts on Hachinosu Island hadn't left yet, and as for how long he would have to wait, that was unknown. Blackbeard Teach was terrified. He didn't dare approach any closer. If he were discovered, he'd be finished. At this moment, Shiryu of the Rain, who was smoking a cigar, asked Captain Teach, "Are we supposed to wait here until Kaido leaves Hachinosu Island?" "Let's leave now. I don't want to be discovered by Kaido." Blackbeard Teach was so afraid of staying in the waters around Hachinosu Island that he didn't want to be discovered. Corrupt King reluctantly waved his hand and said, "It's really a shame. We've all come this far, and now we have to go back empty-handed. Isn't that right? Should we leave face with Kaido?" Devin chimed in. Laffit, pacing around with his sword, said, "However, we can also find out if Hachinosu Island has become Kaido's territory. If not, then we can find a way to take over." Hey ha ha ha, Burgess laughed and said, "Laffit is right. That seems like a good idea." Blackbeard Teach immediately cursed, "Damn it. Stop talking nonsense. Let's hurry back. I don't want to stay here for another moment." There's one thing Blackbeard Teach didn't say. Even though they both possess various devil fruit abilities, Kaido is so much stronger, while Blackbeard Teach himself isn't as powerful as Kaido. He's frustrated and afraid of Kaido. The Whitebeard Pirates, Moby Dick on board. Yamato looked at the latest newspapers, then, lost in thought, whispered, "Father, the frequency of major actions has been increasing lately, and they've been dominating the headlines in the newspapers. From taking over the North Sea forces of Vinsmoke Germa 66 to now destroying Okoku on Hachinosu Island. I don't know what Father Kaido plans to do next, or which force he will eliminate. All of these are entirely possible." Ace walked over and patted Yamato's shoulder, saying, "That's what your father Kaido is doing. It has nothing to do with you. You don't need to feel guilty. If you want to see your father Kaido, I can go with you." "No need, Ace. I don't want to go see my father. I don't know how to face him anyway. It's better not to go." Yamato shook her head in response. Going to see Kaido would likely cause a lot of trouble, and Yamato didn't want that kind of trouble to happen. Marco shouted, "Haha, Ace, Yamato, you two can't leave us out of your discussion." "That's right, Ace." Buffalo, the captain of the 13th Division, also agreed with Marco. The other division captains felt the same way. Whitebeard, sitting in the main seat, sipped his sake and sighed. Even Okoku was killed by Kaido. People of the same era are starting to stir again. How long can I hold out? The remnants of the previous era are destined to be eliminated by the new era. Even the captain of the 7th Division, Rakuyo, hastily said, "Father, don't say such ominous things." Our Whitebeard pirates can still sail on this vast ocean for 10 years or more. That's right, father, in our minds, you're still the strongest man in the world. The captain of the 11th Division, Kingdu, chimed in. The captain of the 15th Division, Fasa, puffed on his cigar and nodded, saying that Kaido is a different kind, but our father truly possesses solid strength. Whoosh Whitebeard threw his head back and burst into laughter, saying, "You fools, I'm worried about your safety. As for myself, I'm already an old man who's practically in my grave. On the other hand, Kaido's strength is far greater than even my peak." If Kaido had set his sights on the Whitebeard pirates that day, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Therefore, my father is also thinking about a way out. After all, once I'm gone, you fools, you can probably imagine your situation. Whitebeard spoke at length, and his sons, basically all bowing their heads, understood that their father was right. If their father, the Whitebeard pirates, were to fall, countless people would undoubtedly rush forward to take revenge. These were all necessary considerations, but they were all incredibly unwilling to accept their fate. Their Whitebeard pirates had achieved such success, built by their father's fists, only to be forced to consider retreat because of Kaido of the 100 Beasts. How ironic! Diamond Jozu clenched his fists, his resolve unwavering. Even if it costs me my life, I will protect the honor of the Whitebeard pirates. That's right, father, even if it costs us our lives, we will fiercely protect the honor of the Whitebeard pirates. Flower Sword Vista also expressed his determination. Following the declarations of determination from Diamond Jozu and Flower Sword Vista, the other squad leaders and all the Whitebeard pirates followed suit. As members of the Whitebeard pirates, they all wanted to protect the pirates' honor and would not allow anyone to trample on it. Ace jumped up and shouted, "Everyone, let's all protect the honor of the Whitebeard pirates together. We can't let father be ashamed." Whoosh Whitebeard was also amused by his son, saying, "You fools, sometimes it's not just about courage. You also need sufficient strength to protect yourselves and everything you want to protect." Whitebeard's real purpose in saying this wasn't because he was happy that his sons wanted to protect the honor of the Whitebeard pirates, but to make them more deeply aware of the importance of their own strength. Before, when Whitebeard was younger, these things weren't important, but now things have changed. Not only is he getting old, but there's also the appearance of a monster like Kaido of the 100 Beasts. This forced Whitebeard to reconsider and change. Only in this way could he ensure his son's safety. Marco stood beside Whitebeard and whispered, "Father, you're old, that's true, but we're not old yet. Therefore, our Whitebeard pirates can still establish a foothold in the new world." I want to hand over the Whitebeard pirates to Ace in the future, because my father is really getting old. Whitebeard sighed again. After all, the matter of age was undeniable. Whitebeard was very clear about his own physical condition. Marco heard his father say he wanted to hand over the Whitebeard pirates to Ace, and he had no objections. Because, in terms of potential, Ace was indeed the most promising and qualified to take over the Whitebeard pirates. After all, this had been predicted not long after Ace joined the Whitebeard pirates. It's just that now his father said it himself. Marco replied in a low voice, "Ace is indeed the most suitable person to take over the Whitebeard pirates. He has the potential to reach the pinnacle of combat power." Whitebeard was especially pleased, and Marco, who had considered him a long time ago, brought him over and said, "Marco, honestly, entrusting the Whitebeard pirates to you in the future is the most suitable thing to do. But there's one thing, this sea is all about strength. Without sufficient strength, the ultimate fate is to become a failure, disappearing into this vast ocean." Whitebeard and Marco's conversation was very low, so everyone on the Moby Dick couldn't hear their father and Marco talking. Otherwise, this topic would have caused a huge shock. Ace jumped to Marco's side and asked, "Marco, what were you whispering to Dad just now? Why were you afraid we'd hear?" "That's right." Diamond Jozu and the others also chimed in. The atmosphere among the Whitebeard pirates was so good. Basically, everyone was happy and harmonious. Whitebeard laughed heartily and said, "Whoosh, you idiots. Hurry up and raise your glasses and carry them out. We're having a drinking party. Tonight you're all going to let loose and drink. Understood?" 6th Division Captain Flamenco immediately clapped his hands and said, "The old man has spoken, brothers. Let's all get going." Ninth Division Captain Blenheim also chimed in. I'll carry the drinks. Ace put his arm around Yamato's shoulder and said, let's go. Yamato, don't think about your father Kaido. Today you have to help me drink to your heart's content. No problem, Ace. You'll just have to admit defeat then. Yamato replied with great confidence in his own drinking capacity. As for the future of the Whitebeard pirates being entrusted to Ace, Whitebeard only temporarily let Marco know. Anyway, spreading this news too early wouldn't make any sense. At the same time, somewhere on an island in the New World, Redfield, who had escaped from Impel Down, was now extremely old and weak, but his eyes still shone with great spirit. No one could imagine that this was an old, frail man. Redfield threw away the newspaper in his hand, dismissively saying, the Navy is truly useless. Kaido keeps growing stronger. Eventually, you should all be eliminated. But then again, how did Kaido break through the limits of his power? Redfield was still deeply troubled by this. That was his peak back then, reaching the absolute limit of his power in this ocean, truly standing at the pinnacle. Even the best Marines, including Admiral Cyborg Kong, were defeated, but in the end, he was in a bad mood and that bastard Garp reaped the benefits. He once thought his strength was at the peak of this vast ocean, but after seeing Kaido of the 100 Beasts, this perception was instantly shattered. In other words, peak strength can be broken through to a higher level, this time. Redfield couldn't sit still. He also wanted to experience what it felt like to surpass the ceiling of this ocean's fighting power. And Redfield had already found a way to restore his youth, a Zoan-type mythical Zoan model, Vampire Devil Fruit. If he ate that devil fruit, he could restore his peak strength from back then, and then once again seek a way to break through to peak strength. Redfield kicked the corpse under his feet, dragging his frail, aging body step by step towards the shore, whispering, sleeping ancient town, I hope you don't disappoint me. Mythical Zoan model, Vampire. To obtain this intelligence, Redfield slaughtered everyone on this island. He was a contemporary of Roger, Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Garp, Sengoku, and others. He alone was on par with Roger and Whitebeard, possessing exceptionally powerful strength. It was also because of his decades of imprisonment in Impel Down that his body had severely deteriorated. Otherwise, his body wouldn't be so frail and weak now. To continue sailing on this vast ocean, he must regain his youth and reclaim his former peak strength. When Redfield reached the shore, he laughed maniacally and said, Whitebeard, Garp, Sengoku, Rayleigh, you all have your physical strength declining due to age, but I will not be like you. I, Redfield, will once again stand at the pinnacle of this ocean, and my era will once again begin. And Kaido, the future doesn't belong to you alone. In the New World, somewhere on an extraordinary hidden island, lies the ancient town of Sleeping. After 3 days of arduous travel, Redfield finally arrived at Sleeping Town. Looking around, he exclaimed, the Bado no Mi mythical Zoan model, Vampire, capable of restoring youth, is truly something to look forward to. Then, Redfield began a thorough search of the entire town, his goal being to find the Bado no Mi mythical Zoan model, Vampire. After half a day of arduous searching, Redfield finally found the model, Vampire mythical Zoan, in a cave filled with bats. Unable to contain his intense excitement, Redfield burst into laughter, saying, ha ha ha, finally, I've found it. Now, the moment of rejuvenation has arrived. Redfield took a bite of the devil fruit, and the moment he ate it, his face instantly turned a liver-like color. It was quite unappetizing, almost disgusting. But Redfield endured the intense nausea and swallowed the flesh of the devil fruit in his mouth. As for the rest of the devil fruit, Redfield didn't even look at it and threw it to the ground. Devil fruits were something you only needed to eat once. Redfield didn't want to suffer anymore. The moment he ate the devil fruit, he immediately sensed the information about this Zoan-type mythical Zoan model, Vampire ability. Bado no Mi mythical Zoan model, Vampire. It can absorb the lifespan of others by absorbing their blood, allowing it to revert to its youthful form. And even its abilities can be restored to their youthful state. Even in the evening, he could create darkness, allowing himself to blend in so that no one could find him. Redfield revealed a satisfied smile and said, that's truly an amazing ability. Previously, Redfield wouldn't have bothered eating devil fruits, but now it was different. To regain his youth, Redfield was willing to eat a devil fruit, gain the ability, and return to his peak strength from his youth. Only in this way could Redfield feel his own worth. So Redfield began to activate the Devil Fruit's power within him. As the ability activated, Redfield's appearance gradually became younger, though not yet fully restored to his prime. Redfield whispered, "It seems I still need to drink human blood. Only then can I maintain my youth." Thinking this, Redfield immediately took action, his bat wings unfolding behind him. This was one of the abilities of the Bado no Mi mythical Zoan model, Vampire. The ability to fly was arguably the most powerful aspect of a mythical Zoan devil fruit. In a town relatively close to the sleeping ancient town, everyone was directly drained of their blood by Redfield, creating a horrifying scene. The massive amount of blood fueled Redfield's aura, making him incredibly terrifying. At this moment, Redfield completely burst into laughter, saying, "Ha ha ha, Redfield, have finally recovered my peak strength. With such immense power, I will still exist on this vast ocean. My legend, Redfield, will live on. Therefore, it's also a good way to publicize my return to the world, so they understand what a true strongman of the past era really is." If Kaido of the 100 Beasts hadn't appeared, Redfield wouldn't have planned to make such a big fuss after regaining his youthful strength. The reason he chose to make such a fuss was to find a way to break through his power ceiling. It was also to attract Kaido's attention, since only Kaido had broken through the limit, and Redfield would definitely have to rely on Kaido himself. However, a direct confrontation was impossible. That would result in Kaido killing him, imprisoning him, or forcing him to surrender. Therefore, this matter had to be handled slowly and carefully. Now that he had regained his youth, there was no need to rush. Time slowly passed, and another week went by. The news above, related to Redfield, caused quite a stir, and the legend surrounding Redfield was also brought to light. This was Redfield's deliberate act, intentionally creating a big news story to attract attention. Aokiji couldn't help but sigh, saying, "It's truly a good era for me, but it's also the most difficult era." Aokiji also knew that even the most powerful admiral, or perhaps the best admiral, wouldn't be under as much pressure as he was currently. At that moment, the door opened, and Garp and Tsuru entered together. Garp thought to himself, "Kyuzin, you should rest properly when you have time. Don't overwork yourself. It'll only do more harm than good." "Mr. Garp, Miss Tsuru, are you here because of Redfield?" Aokiji knew at a glance that Garp and Tsuru had come because of Redfield. After all, these two rarely came to the Admiral's office unless there was a reason. They only came when there was something important to discuss. Vice Admiral Tsuru handed Aokiji a document on his mobile phone and said, "Regarding Redfield's restoration of youth, based on our investigation and speculation, Redfield obtained the Zoan-type Bado no Mi mythical Zoan model, Vampire ability." A Zoan-type mythical Zoan? Aokiji raised his eyebrows slightly upon hearing this. To be honest, a Zoan-type mythical Zoan ability brings immense value. Especially this kind of ability that can restore youth, its value is even greater. Basically, 90% or more of every powerful individual whose strength has declined due to age needs one. Garp sat down and said, "Now that Redfield has recovered his youth, we Marines shouldn't interfere with him for the time being. If he wants to cause trouble, let him. A single admiral can't control him. It might even lead to unexpected consequences. There's no need for that." "That's right." Vice Admiral Tsuru nodded in agreement. Redfield's style of doing things wasn't like this before, so we can boldly speculate that Redfield's actions must have his own purpose. He wouldn't do something like this without a reason. Vice Admiral Tsuru shared her analysis with Aokiji. After calming down a bit, Aokiji also analyzed it based on Vice Admiral Tsuru's words, and it was indeed true. Aokiji stated his personal plan. "We can temporarily remain inactive and let the world government see how they plan to act and how they intend to respond to Redfield." Vice Admirals Garp and Tsuru both agreed with Aokiji's decision. Just as Aokiji, Garp, and Tsuru were discussing the Redfield issue, a Marine lieutenant rushed in, reporting, "Marshal Aokiji, Admiral Akainu just led a warship out, reportedly to capture Redfield." "I know, let him go." Aokiji waved his hand, dismissing the Marine lieutenant. After the lieutenant left the marshal's office, Vice Admiral Tsuru said with a displeased expression, "Sakazuki is increasingly disregarding you, the marshal. He didn't even report his departure, acting too arbitrarily. How are the soldiers supposed to treat him like this? As a veteran Marine, Vice Admiral Tsuru could naturally see the problem. Aokiji had been promoted to Marshal, Akainu had failed the exam, and the Gorosei were still supporting Akainu. This led to the two naval forces constantly engaging in a silent standoff. Despite the extremely serious situation, yet they continued to make these petty maneuvers. This would only lead to a continuous decline in the Navy's cohesion, which was extremely dangerous for the Navy. Aokiji understood this and slowly said, "No matter how Sakazuki fights me, I am the Admiral. He is the Grand Admiral. This is an undeniable fact. I am the Supreme Commander of the Navy. Furthermore, the more Sakazuki continues to fight me like this, the smaller his chances of becoming Admiral become." Ha ha ha! Garp burst into laughter upon hearing this, saying, "Kyuzan, you little rat, you're something else now?" Becoming Admiral really does change things. If that brat Sakazuki heard this, wouldn't he be furious and just honestly become an Admiral, just like Kizaru? Wouldn't that be much more comfortable? Why engage in this power struggle? Garp strongly disapproved of Sakazuki's actions simply because he was annoyed by Kyuzan's rise to Admiral and was rebelling against him. Vice Admiral Tsuru, upon seeing Aokiji's current state, was extremely satisfied and pleased. At least in terms of stabilizing the Navy's internal affairs, his mind was very clear, and he wouldn't make impulsive decisions blindly. As long as Aokiji was Admiral, things would basically be stable without too many problems. However, Sakazuki's problem was serious, and several Vice Admirals were following Sakazuki's lead. Akainu joined the Navy a few years earlier than Aokiji, and although his connections within the Navy were less than Aokiji's, he gained more favor from higher-ranking officials, namely the world government. At the same time, Akainu boarded a warship and sailed to Marine headquarters, preparing to bypass the Red Line and head towards the New World. On board, Vice Admiral Onigimo inquired, "Admiral Akainu, haven't we reported our preparations to Marshal Aokiji? Will that be all right?" Even the veteran Vice Admiral Onigimo understood that failing to report to the Marshal would lead to serious consequences and potential reprimand. Akainu, with his arms crossed and his gaze fixed straight ahead, coldly said, "Don't worry, that Aokiji won't do anything. I may find his way of doing things annoying, but he's not the type to settle scores later, ha ha." Because, based on the situation up to this point, Akainu had roughly figured out Aokiji's style of handling things. Ever since Aokiji became Admiral, Akainu has been paying even closer attention to him. While the opportunity for the handsome upper rank one was lost, Akainu wouldn't easily swallow it. He was determined to make Aokiji suffer. Of course, the main reason was Aokiji's overly conservative approach. Akainu's style, however, was to completely eliminate all unstable elements, using a ruthless and iron-fisted approach to achieve his goals. Now that Redfield had regained his youth and was attacking the world government, regardless of Redfield's motives, Akainu believed he had to be eliminated quickly. Otherwise, if other pirates followed suit, how would the Navy and the world government control this vast ocean? However, Akainu disagreed with Aokiji's policies. Aokiji was always so calculating, worrying about this and that, which greatly annoyed Akainu. Onigimo, hearing Admiral Akainu's words, also kept his mouth shut. After all, he was a senior vice admiral. Asking further questions would seem impolite. Onigimo wouldn't do anything that would be embarrassing. On the ship, Akainu and Onigimo developed a mutual understanding. Many things didn't need to be discussed openly. They knew what they were in their hearts. Onigimo understood that Admiral Akainu's desire to gain more influence within the Navy was tantamount to weakening Admiral Aokiji's power. It could be said that this struggle is unusually brutal. If not for external pressure, Admiral Akainu would have a 90% or higher chance of clashing with Marshal Aokiji. This possibility is too high, and many veteran Marines can see that. And so, because the two couldn't fight due to external pressure, the internal power struggle escalated into an increasingly serious conflict. Those who followed the vice admirals and rear admirals were in a terrible situation, caught in the middle, but there was nothing they could do. That's the situation now. A few hours later, news of Akainu leading a fleet past the Holy Land of Mariejwa to the New World reached the Gorosei. However, the Gorosei remained silent, as if they were unaware of the matter. They were well aware of the internal power struggles within the Navy. The Gorosei also knew that without their full support, Akainu would be unable to stand against Aokiji and nearly become an equal force. As the supreme commander of the Navy, Aokiji naturally possessed an advantage. The Gorosei's support and tacit approval of this was also aimed at weakening the Navy, their real purpose being to allow the world government to interfere in the Navy's internal affairs. Now, after generations of governance, the world government's influence within the Navy has steadily diminished, and the Navy has begun to develop its own independent ideology. This is not what the Gorosei want, and now is precisely the opportunity. The Gorosei are using their influence to continuously interfere in the Navy's internal affairs. Therefore, Akainu is also a pawn in their game. As for the consequences of weakening the Navy's strength, the Gorosei are even less concerned about that. In their opinion, replenishing the Navy's fighting force is extremely simple. Just like this time, after the Summit War ended, a massive military conscription was launched and the lost forces were immediately replenished. Therefore, the Gorosei's goal was simple: to control the Navy, ensuring the world government remained standing and dominated the entire world. Originally, they didn't have this opportunity, and that was because the external pressure on the Navy was already immense. All of this depended on Kaido, otherwise, the Navy's reorganization would have been faster. And the difficulty for the Gorosei to interfere in the Navy's internal affairs would have increased many times over. What the Gorosei didn't know was that in the original story, after Akainu became the admiral, their desire to control the Navy was shattered. And now, the Gorosei still believe that Akainu is a very easy person to control and very loyal to them. That's what the Gorosei think now. According to the Gorosei, Aokiji was completely uncontrollable, extremely troublesome, and completely at odds with the ultimate goals of their world government. However, the Gorosei didn't dare to exert too much pressure on the Navy, especially since there was still the incredibly powerful enemy, Kaido of the Beasts. Until Kaido was completely eliminated, the Gorosei could only secretly provide assistance to the Navy, thereby controlling them. Anyway, before that, Redfield had personally gone to the underworld to gather intelligence, and that underworld was Doflamingo's territory. Therefore, Doflamingo intentionally instructed Virgo to secretly inform him about the major operation the Navy was undertaking. Even the Navy and the world government didn't know that Doflamingo had officially joined Kaido's ranks, becoming one of Lord Kaido's main subordinates. Gathering information about the Navy's actions was Doflamingo's duty, and he had to report it to Lord Kaido promptly. So Doflamingo took out another phone and dialed. Beep 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 as the call connected. Revealing Lord Kaido's image, Doflamingo respectfully reported, "Lord Kaido, I have received information regarding Akainu's attempt to capture Redfield." Dofla, you did well, but you don't need to report this kind of thing in the future, unless it's something particularly important. After all, the phone is a dummy, and the Navy has eavesdropping technology. Kaido's voice came through the dummy. Doflamingo became even more vigilant after hearing it, and replied, "I understand, Lord Kaido. I will be even more careful. If the Navy eavesdrops and causes you trouble, it will be my fault." Doflamingo wasn't an ignorant person. On the contrary, he was exceptionally intelligent. Kaido's words meant that he didn't want to be disturbed for the time being. Therefore, Doflamingo naturally had to remember this clearly. If he angered Kaido, then... After finishing the phone call with Lord Kaido, Doflamingo immediately called his subordinate Virgo, telling him what to do. After all, Doflamingo knew that Lord Kaido would definitely have a battle with the world government. Ultimately, it all comes down to who emerges victorious. Following someone will inevitably yield great benefits in the end, just like the world government was established before. Wasn't it also built by 20 forces? And its elders all became the celestial dragons now. Doflamingo, as a celestial dragon who was demoted and sent to the mortal world, naturally understood this principle. Doflamingo poured himself a glass of red wine, drank it, and said with a laugh, "No, what kind of wind will blow across this vast ocean? It's truly something to look forward to." Across the world, there are pirate crews, underground forces, supernovas, the 7 warlords, the 4 emperors, the Navy, the Revolutionary Army, and the world government. Only those who adapt to the times are true heroes. Somewhere in the New World, Douglas Bullet, who had escaped from Impel Down, sat on a rock drinking alcohol, looking at the newspaper and laughing. "Ha ha ha, interesting. That old Redfield guy is quite cunning. Restoring his youth and reclaiming his peak strength." However, it seems Redfield is a bit smarter than that old idiot world. Really interesting. Let you guys go first. I'll be the one to make a big move last. A plan had already formed in Bullet's mind. It just hadn't been officially implemented yet. If that plan succeeded, Douglas Bullet could leap to become the most influential man in the world. At the same time, on another island in the new world where Redfield was temporarily staying, a warship was rapidly approaching from the open sea. On the ship, Akainu stood at the bow, while Onagumo reported, Admiral Akainu, that Redfield is on that island ahead. It seems he's specifically waiting for us to pass by. HMPH, just an old geezer. I'll go deal with him later. You guys provide support and don't let that old geezer escape. Akainu's eyes were cold and filled with fierce fighting spirit. He wanted to prove himself once again, not just to the Marines, but also to the world government. He, Akainu, was capable of raising the banner of the era, breaking through the encirclement, and ensuring justice permeated this age. This was his belief. Yes, Admiral Akainu, Onagumo, and the Marine soldiers behind him responded in unison. Indeed, Admiral Akainu had always been their role model. On the island, Redfield slowly opened his eyes, whispering, "Is the person who arrived Akainu, the user of the Magu Magu no Mi devil fruit?" Redfield wanted to find a way to break through the Emperor level limit, but he didn't dare directly approach Kaido of the Beast Kingdom. Even with his current peak strength, he lacked the confidence to defeat Kaido. Therefore, Redfield turned his attention to the world government, forcing them to let him contact Vegapunk. The chance was slim, but worth a try. Furthermore, Redfield considered that if Vegapunk had a solution, the world government would certainly not let him go. The reason Redfield thought of Vegapunk was because he had an idea. He wanted to use that idea to see if he could break through the Emperor level limit like Kaido of the Beast Kingdom, thereby further enhancing his power. Immediately, this series of maneuvers aimed at the world government, forcing them to retaliate, gave Redfield room to maneuver. The newcomers were a young Admiral Akainu and a group of Marines Redfield didn't take seriously. Confident in his own strength, Redfield felt he could handle it. The outcome would be decided later. If Kaido of the Beasts could break through the limits of his power, then Redfield could too. After the warship arrived, Akainu cast a glance, and Redfield looked back. Akainu landed on the island and walked towards Redfield, coldly judging him, "Old man, you'd better run away. It might not be so easy for us Marines to catch you. Too bad, you've voluntarily come out, so I'll personally break your neck." Ha ha ha. Redfield seemed to have heard the funniest thing ever, replying, "Little Navy brat, you're very confident. Calling yourself old man, when I was famous throughout the world, you didn't even know where you were still breastfeeding. Old man from the previous era, there's no place for you in this era. Go to hell." Akainu's legs transformed into molten lava as he accelerated towards Redfield, launching an attack. Boom boom. Observing from within, Onagumo frowned and said, "It seems the rumors are true. This Redfield once defeated the Cyborg Kong, the commander-in-chief, who sacrificed himself for the mission." Behind him, a group of Navy soldiers were shocked. One of them asked, "Vice Admiral Onagumo, how did this Redfield end up being captured and imprisoned in Impel Down?" After a 10-day and 10-night battle between Admiral Cyborg Kong and Redfield, he fell. At that time, Vice Admiral Garp arrived and captured Redfield, imprisoning him in Impel Down. Onagumo didn't shy away from this part of the Navy's history. After all, some things, if kept secret, wouldn't make much difference, and Admiral Cyborg Kong had sacrificed himself for the mission. Furthermore, Onagumo's willingness to mention this point seemed to be meant to elevate Redfield, but it was also to ensure Admiral Akainu defeated Redfield, thus further enhancing Akainu's prestige. Initially, in this Admiral election, Admiral Akainu had a great chance of becoming Admiral, but now that he wasn't selected, his situation within the Navy is even more difficult than before. The pro-war ideology at Admiral Aokuji's place simply couldn't be implemented. This is the most fundamental problem. Right when Onagumo was talking to the Marine soldiers. On the battlefield, Akainu and Redfield's fight was unusually fierce. Redfield relentlessly brandished his lava-shooting sword, mockingly saying, "Is this all the strength a Marine Admiral has? It's quite disappointing. Arrogant, your strength isn't that great. Old man, stop showing off." Akainu roared in response, simultaneously slamming his lava fist fiercely onto Redfield's sword. Akainu realized that Redfield was merely putting on a show. In terms of raw power, they were evenly matched. A winner couldn't be determined quickly. However, Akainu also noticed that Redfield's Kenban Shoku Haki was extremely profound, reaching a very high level. But Akainu also believed in the destructive power of his Magumadu no Mi Devil Fruit. If he successfully hit Redfield, even if this old man was very strong, he would still be severely injured. Or if things really didn't work out by then, they could call on Onigimo for assistance in the battle. Far above, on the open sea, the Blackbeard pirate's ship was approaching. Shiryu of the Rain, smoking a cigar, chuckled and said, Akainu and Redfield probably never imagined we'd pull off this ambush. Ha ha ha! Blackbeard Teach burst into maniacal laughter, saying, such a spectacular scene. How could I not be there, right, you little rascals? That's right, Captain Teach, Devon replied with an ugly grin. They all greatly admired Captain Blackbeard Teach's style. This was truly what pirates should do. Van Augur, carrying his sniper rifle, rattled off, all of this is the arrangement of fate. Burgess raised both hands and laughed, saying, well ha ha ha, if we capture Admiral Akainu and Redfield, won't our size skyrocket? That's for sure, replied the seemingly sickly Q corrupt king, however, was quite cautious while drinking, saying, on the contrary, neither Admiral Akainu nor Redfield are simple characters. Let's not end up being completely wiped out. Ha ha ha! Blackbeard Teach laughed, replying, idiot, how can we go up now? At least we should wait until they're almost finished fighting before we ambush them. In truth, Blackbeard Teach didn't know the reason himself, but to break the deadlock, he had to do it this way. Sakazuki and Redfield fought fiercely for 3 hours, and Sakazuki discovered a problem. Although this old man was advanced in age, his Devil Fruit ability gave him peak strength. Trying to capture Redfield put considerable pressure on Sakazuki. After kicking away the lava bomb, Redfield sneered, Navy brat, do you still dare to boast about capturing me? You're overestimating yourself. Damn old man. Akainu was completely enraged, shouting, Onigimo, restrain this old man. I want to capture him in one fell swoop. Not far away, Onigimo, hearing Admiral Akainu's command, immediately drew his sword and charged forward without the slightest hesitation. For this moment, Redfield had anticipated it early on. After all, the Navy was like this, specializing in petty theft. At the same time, Redfield didn't intend to fight to the death. It was pointless. This lava brat's strength truly deserved the title of Admiral. If this method didn't work, then other methods would suffice. Onigimo jumped behind Redfield, unleashing his strongest move, roaring, 8-blade style, Spider Coil. Onigimo's body moved swiftly, facing a legend like Redfield. He didn't dare hold back. Little brat, get down from there. Redfield didn't even bat an eye at Onigimo's attack, but he had to be wary of the lava brat's attack, otherwise he would suffer a great loss. Redfield swung his sword, unleashing a flying slash that sent Onigimo flying, but this also left him momentarily stunned. Akainu, already poised to strike, seized this opportunity and immediately swung his lava fist. Mago! The dog-headed lava fist went straight for Redfield's head. Redfield's eyes caught sight of the lava fist so close, and he used his other hand, enveloped in Bisashoku Haki, to block it. Bang! The lava fist and Redfield's hand collided, but Redfield was only defending in his haste, unlike Akainu, who had prepared for a full-force attack. Therefore, in the clash, Redfield fell into a certain disadvantage. This was the first time since the two began fighting that Redfield had been at a disadvantage and Akainu had gained the upper hand. Akainu, seeing this, wouldn't miss this good opportunity. He wasn't going to let Redfield regain his composure and gain the upper hand in the attack, but it wouldn't be that easy. Facing a top-tier expert like Redfield, defeating him wouldn't be easy. Onigimo, sent flying by the flying slash, also got up from the ground, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and whispered, so powerful, but justice will prevail. Onigimo charged at Redfield again. Today, no matter what, he wanted to take down Admiral Akainu, so that Admiral Akainu's reputation would be further enhanced, and their pro-war faction's influence within the Navy would increase even more. Later in the battle, Redfield also felt a certain amount of pressure. He had initially found dealing with Akainu quite easy, but the constant sneak attacks from the former elite vice admiral put him at a disadvantage. Redfield had tried to retreat several times, but Akainu, risking serious injury, stubbornly insisted on holding Redfield back. This infuriated Redfield, who angrily shouted, "You little lava brat! If you really want to die, then I'll grant your wish. Killing an admiral will surely cause the Navy and the world government great pain." Ha ha ha! Redfield intended to cripple Akainu, this little lava brat, even if it meant getting injured. This time, both Akainu and Redfield were fighting like madmen, disregarding the risk of injury, determined to inflict serious damage on each other, leaving absolutely no room for maneuver. Every move was a killing blow. Redfield wouldn't tolerate the lava brat, and Akainu was equally insane, like a mad dog. Far above, on board the Blackbeard pirate's ship, Van Auger, observing the battle through his telescope, reported, "Captain Teach, Akainu and Redfield have entered a life-or-death battle. Judging by the current situation, a winner should be decided soon." Ha ha ha. Blackbeard Teach chuckled. "I originally thought those two would fight for days and nights, but I didn't expect them to enter a life-or-death battle so quickly. My opportunity is coming soon." Blackbeard Teach was now incredibly excited. Once Akainu and Redfield's battle was almost over, he could launch a surprise attack and perhaps capture them both. Obtaining their devil fruit abilities would instantly boost the fighting power of his crew. The Blackbeard pirates all desperately want to obtain Akainu's or Redfield's devil fruit abilities. Those are both top-tier powers. Just wanting to get it, so that we can instantly gain powerful combat strength. Burgess raised both hands excitedly and laughed. "Wow ha ha ha, Captain Teach. When the time comes, leave Akainu's Magu Magu no Mi devil fruit ability to me. I really like that devil fruit ability." Ha ha ha! Blackbeard Teach laughed in response. "Okay, you little rascals, when we launch the ambush, don't be like a car with a broken chain." Devon revealed an ugly smile and said, "Killing a legendary Redfield and an admiral. To what extent will our Blackbeard pirate's reputation skyrocket?" Shiryu of the Rain, wiping his weapon clean after smoking his cigar, slowly said, "The plan hasn't succeeded yet, and we can't become complacent. Those two aren't simple either. If things go wrong, it's not impossible that some of us will fall." Shiryu of the Rain's words were meant to remind them that being too blindly complacent would only lead to their downfall. As the former commander of Impel Down, Shiryu of the Rain understood Admiral Akainu and Redfield far better than anyone else present, making him even more wary. Akainu, a representative of the war faction and an admiral, possessed monstrous fighting power, while Redfield had even defeated Cyborg Kong. These words clearly indicate that both of them are figures at the pinnacle of the seas. Of course, Kaido of the Beasts cannot be included. He is a transcendent monster. Even Shiryu of the Rain considers Kaido of the Beasts to be a seriously overpowered individual. While the Blackbeard pirates were discussing this loudly, another 4 hours passed. On the battlefield, Akainu and Redfield's injuries were becoming increasingly severe. Redfield had a hole in his stomach from Akainu's lava fist, and if it weren't for his immense strength and the life force provided by the mythical Zoan, he would have fallen long ago. Akainu was no better off. He had 3 holes pierced through his body by Redfield's sword and several other sword cuts, causing him to bleed profusely. As for Onigumo, he lay on the ground, gasping for breath, his chest bearing a terrifyingly large wound that revealed his bones. If Akainu hadn't relentlessly restrained Redfield, Onigumo would have been killed by Redfield long ago. Akainu's rock fist could pierce Redfield's stomach, an opportunity created by Onigumo's desperate efforts. Redfield covered the bleeding wound on his stomach with his hand, a large amount of fresh blood gushing out. His face was unusually grim as he said, "Little brat, the Magumadu no Mi fruit has very strong destructive power. If you hit me a few more times, it would be troublesome. It's all because of that damned Marine Vice Admiral." Read the aloof Redfield, "You're going to end here today." Akainu, covered in blood, responded with a strong tone. Today, no matter what, he had to capture the aloof Redfield. As for being injured or seriously wounded, Akainu didn't care at all. Just as Akainu and Redfield clashed again, a group of people approached. These people were the Blackbeard pirates. Blackbeard Teach swaggered ahead, laughing and saying, "Ha ha ha, Admiral Akainu, the aloof, Redfield, do you know who I am?" Redfield's gaze swept over Blackbeard Teach and his group, and he sneered, "Isn't this the little brat who used to scavenge for benefits? How did you become so self-righteous after acquiring Sengoku's abilities?" Ha ha ha! Blackbeard Teach was now completely fearless, because these two were seriously injured. He laughed and said, "It's an honor to receive praise from Senior the Aloof. Then let me send you off. Are you ready?" Ha ha! Following Blackbeard teaches maniacal laughter. The members of the Blackbeard pirates behind him also joined in the laughter. Akainu, gasping for breath with blood gushing from his nose and mouth, said, "Blackbeard teach. And Shiryu of the Rain, the impelled down prisoner, you've all appeared. Today, I'll send you all to hell together. Admiral Akainu, you're as ruthless as ever." But who kills whom today is still uncertain. Shiryu of the Rain retorted arrogantly, exhaling a puff of smoke. If it were a one-on-one fight, Shiryu of the Rain wouldn't dare, even with Akainu injured. He would still choose to avoid him. But they were a group, and with Captain Teach, who could suppress devil fruit abilities, they held a significant advantage in this battle. Blackbeard Teach revealed an ugly, ferocious expression, laughing and saying, "Ha ha ha, you little rascals, let's go and capture Akainu and Redfield." Following Blackbeard Teach's command, the Blackbeard pirates instantly charged towards Akainu and Redfield. Blackbeard Teach single-handedly targeted the aloof Redfield, while the rest of the crew surrounded Akainu. Redfield, his stomach bleeding from the lava wound, slowly said, "Little brat, do you think that just because I'm injured, you can come and take advantage of me? Delusional." Ha ha ha! Blackbeard Teach's entire body began to emit black smoke as he arrogantly laughed. "Is that so? Delusional. I'll make you understand soon enough." Senior read the aloof Redfield. Dark water. Blackbeard Teach aimed his hand at Redfield and activated the power of the Yami Yami Nomi. Immediately, Redfield felt a force that even he couldn't resist. What kind of power is this? It can forcibly pull me in. Redfield tried to resist, but found it futile. However, Redfield, with his exceptionally rich combat experience, didn't give up. Instead of losing his footing, he immediately adjusted, swinging his sword. Blackbeard Teach let out a scream as his shoulder was ripped open, but he successfully captured Redfield. The moment he caught him, Blackbeard Teach revealed an ugly grin. Redfield's expression instantly changed, and he exclaimed in shock, "What? Your ability, little brat? Could it be?" Ha ha ha! Blackbeard Teach, seeing the arrogant Redfield instantly transform into an old man, didn't care about the wound on his shoulder anymore, excitedly laughing. "How's my ability? I really like your ability, old man." "Little brat, do you think sealing my ability means you won?" Redfield wasn't flustered, his right hand wrapped in Heoshoku Haki, aiming a blow at Blackbeard Teach's head. Blackbeard Teach wasn't stupid either, quickly raising his hand to block Redfield's counterattack. Bang! Blackbeard Teach chuckled sinisterly. "Ha ha ha, old man, facing you, I wouldn't dare be careless. After all, you're a legendary figure just like my father." "Little brat," a trainee on the ship. Redfield's right leg, also wrapped in Heoshoku Haki, kicked up. Having been kicked in the stomach, Blackbeard Teach endured intense pain, his fists fiercely pounding on Redfield's head. Bang, bang! After a desperate exchange of blows, they separated, both instantly suffering heavy impacts. Redfield's head gushed blood, and his appearance rapidly reverted to its youthful state. Blackbeard Teach gasped for breath, laughing, "Ha ha ha! Transformed into an old man like you. Your attack power seems to have decreased. It seems I'm sure to win today." Blackbeard Teach had already planned it out. He was willing to risk serious injury to exchange damage with Redfield. Only then could he quickly capture this arrogant Redfield. Redfield slowly stood up, blood flowing even more profusely from the wound in his stomach, calmly saying, "I never thought even I would experience such a humiliating battle. The Yami Yami Nomi is indeed very special, but its weaknesses are also very obvious." Ha ha ha! Blackbeard Teach revealed an ugly, ferocious grin, and began to use the Hido Hido Nomi model, Daibutsu form. As Blackbeard Teach's entire body instantly swelled, transforming into a golden titan. Shockwave. Blackbeard Teach aimed a great Buddha form shockwave at Redfield. Facing Blackbeard Teach's shockwave attack, Redfield dodged backward, sneering, "That's Sengoku's ability. Being used by someone like you is truly shameful." On the other side of the battlefield, Akainu faced the Blackbeard pirates' entire crew alone, in grave danger. And the spider demon, already crippled by Redfield, was unable to help Akainu, only able to whirring helplessly. Red Dog had just used a powerful lava fist to send the evil king flying, but was then ambushed and wounded by Shiryu. Seeing his ambush succeed, Shiryu laughed. "General Red Dog, it seems you're nothing special. I thought you were more powerful." "Damn bastards!" Red Dog was furious. Earlier, in order to force Redfield to stay, he had fought with considerable effort, suffering serious injuries. Now, being surrounded and attacked by these ambushers, he was in a passive position. Otherwise, Red Dog wouldn't have even considered these people a threat. Bang, bang! While Red Dog was enraged, Van Auker's two bullets pierced Red Dog's head, but the bullets turned into lava. Akainu scoffed, "Do you really think your sneak attacks and sneak moves can defeat me? You fools don't know your own limitations." As expected of a great general, even with such serious injuries, you can still maintain such powerful fighting strength. Van Auker was also shocked by Akainu's formidable strength. Akainu had clearly fought Redfield to the point of severe exhaustion and serious injury. Yet he could still unleash such powerful fighting force. It was quite unexpected. Akainu's eyes swept over these people. He had to eliminate them one by one, otherwise, if the chaotic fight continued, the situation would become even more unfavorable for Akainu. If Redfield tried to escape and Blackbeard Teach turned around, that would be disastrous. He had to eliminate these insignificant opponents as quickly as possible. Lafitte, with claws behind his back, reminded them, "We don't want to go head-to-head with Akainu. Our courage isn't enough to stop his lava attacks. This is so annoying." The Evil King was extremely furious because his body was burned, injured by Akainu's lava. At this moment, a beam of light appeared in the air above the battlefield, and a figure slowly emerged. Shiryu looked up at the newcomer and said, "That guy is Kizaru." The Blackbeard pirates' faces also darkened. The arrival of a high-ranking officer was not a good thing for them. Kizaru looked down at the chaotic battlefield and the severely injured Sakazuki and said contemptuously, "How terrifying." The Blackbeard pirates have also arrived, and it looks like they're planning a sneak attack. It's quite unexpected that Sakazuki is injured. Borsalino. Akainu breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing Kizaru arrive. Otherwise, given the current situation, he might have ended up lying dead here. That wouldn't be the outcome Akainu wanted. He hadn't achieved his goal yet. Lafitte also hurried over to Captain Teach, asking, "Captain Teach, what should we do now?" "Forget it, you idiot." Blackbeard Teach clenched his fists, then suddenly burst into laughter, saying, "Ha ha ha, you little rascals, the situation isn't right. Let's retreat quickly." Giving up was the best option. Blackbeard Teach wouldn't fight to the death. The situation had already become unfavorable for them, and with Admiral Kizaru added to the mix, things would be very difficult. Therefore, giving up and retreating was the best choice. The Blackbeard pirates, upon hearing their Captain Teach's command, retreated without hesitation. But when the Blackbeard pirates wanted to retreat, Akainu didn't agree, angrily shouting, "Pirates, you're all going to stay here today. Breathe great fire." Akainu unleashed a massive blast of lava towards the Blackbeard pirates, but suddenly Blackbeard Teach rushed forward, using his great Buddha-form shockwave to block Akainu's lava punch. Boom! After blocking it, Blackbeard Teach immediately pulled his crew and began to flee. However, Akainu pursued them again. Redfield also wanted to retreat, but Kizaru appeared in front of him. Kizaru said contemptuously, "How terrifying. I can't let you escape, otherwise the world government is really hateful." Redfield calmly said, "You Marines really do like stealing chickens and dogs. Haha, that bastard Garp, and you guys too, still talking about justice. How ironic. How terrifying. Arrogant Redfield, you're a legend from a bygone era, of course I have to be careful." Kizaru replied with an exaggeratedly pathetic expression. Hearing this, Redfield didn't bother to argue further. The battle had reached this point, and there was no need to continue. He spread his blood-red wings and accelerated in one direction. But how could Kizaru let Redfield get away? Using his speed to block Redfield's fall, Kizaru contemptuously said, "Redfield, if you were in full power, I might not have the confidence to keep you here. But in your current severely injured state, then I'm sorry. Stay here obediently. Otherwise, I might not be able to explain it to the 5 elders." 8-foot jade hook. Redfield watched the countless lasers shooting towards him, trying his best to remain calm and using Kenban Shoko Haki to track the trajectory of these attacks, and began to activate his vampire form to disperse his body. Boom! Boom! Kizaru, who was launching an attack, also noticed Redfield dodging his attacks and contemptuously said, "How terrifying. No wonder you're from the same era as Whitebeard and Roger. Even though you're both severely injured, you can still evade my attacks. But what about you? Kizaru transformed into a streak of light and appeared before a blood-red bat, contemptuously saying, my Kenbanshoku Haki isn't bad either. He aimed a laser beam at the blood-red bat. After the bat was shattered, Redfield's figure slowly emerged. Redfield, gasping for breath and severely wounded, was bearing a heavy burden while maintaining high-intensity combat. On the other side, Blackbeard Teach and his crew were trying to retreat, but Akainu relentlessly pursued them from behind. Bosses said helplessly, Captain Teach, that Admiral Akainu is chasing us relentlessly. Why don't we turn around and fight back? After all, Admiral Akainu is also severely wounded. It should be easy for us to kill him together. Damn it. Blackbeard Teach had originally planned to retreat, but that Akainu was truly a scoundrel, relentlessly pursuing him. This made Blackbeard Teach extraordinarily angry. Admiral Kizaru was currently dealing with Redfield. Blackbeard Teach was calculating in his mind, should he flee? Or should he stay and kill Akainu? All of this involved an element of gamble, and to kill Akainu, he would have to be faster than Kizaru had taken down Redfield. After all, Redfield was severely injured, and it was unknown how long he could last. This was what Blackbeard Teach was worried about. Shiryu, swinging his cigar beside him, said, let's fight back. With so many of us surrounding Akainu, he won't last long anyway, since Akainu is also severely injured. That's right, with so many of us, there's no need to fear a severely injured admiral, the Evil King chimed in. Currently, the Evil King was very annoyed because he had been injured by Akainu's lava, and he absolutely had to retaliate. So Blackbeard Teach thought for a moment, turned his head to look at Akainu, who was relentlessly pursuing him, and laughed, ha ha ha, since that's the case. Little ones, let's begin our counterattack, capture Admiral Akainu, and seize the power of the lava fruit. The Blackbeard pirates were all excited upon hearing this. They had originally intended to hunt down the Admiral, and they didn't want to miss such a good opportunity. This was a chance for them to achieve instant fame, missing it would be a real loss. Now that the opportunity had returned, they were naturally very excited. While pursuing Akainu, Akainu saw the Blackbeard pirates halt, but he didn't stop. Instead, he leapt up and unleashed a powerful, lava-filled fist attack. Breath of Fire. Akainu had no mercy or leniency towards pirates. He would use the most brutal and ruthless methods to completely annihilate them. That was Akainu's true righteousness. Facing Akainu's attack, Blackbeard Teach had no choice but to jump out and block, transforming into his great Buddha form and launching a shockwave in retaliation. Boom! The two attacks canceled each other out, and they both fell to the ground. Akainu, bleeding profusely, disregarded his own condition and coldly declared, Blackbeard pirates, today you will all die here, I say. Ha ha ha. Blackbeard Teach couldn't help but laugh, saying, General Akainu, you're really confident, trying to kill me won't be that easy. The Blackbeard pirates were all eager to act, as personally killing a high-ranking general was certainly a worthwhile endeavor. Just as Akainu and the Blackbeard pirates were about to resume their battle, the sky instantly darkened with thick black clouds. Everyone present was immediately puzzled. This sudden change in weather was certainly not a good sign. An enormous dragon had emerged from the dark clouds. Yes, Kaido of the 100 Beasts, we're doomed. Bassus's eyes widened instantly. Kaido of the 100 Beasts himself had descended, were we doomed? Blackbeard Teach was so terrified that he was covered in cold sweat and hurriedly shouted, my men, let's escape quickly, or we won't survive. Blackbeard Teach wasn't stupid either. Facing Kaido of the Beasts, there was only one path, death. There was absolutely no way out, so he had to flee immediately. Blackbeard Teach was also afraid that Kaido of the Beasts would set his sights on him. The Blackbeard pirates understood that even with Captain Teach, a dual devil fruit user, and their combined strength, they were completely useless against Kaido of the Beasts. The power difference was enormous, and their numbers were also insufficient. Their courage was shattered at this moment. Kizaru also gave up fighting Redfield and went to Akainu's side. The fallen Spider-Man also slowly stood up and similarly went to Akainu's side. Because Kaido of the Beasts was very likely targeting their marines, they had to be prepared. Kizaru whispered a warning, Sakazuki, we shouldn't stay here long. Otherwise, we'll all end up dead here, and it's not impossible that Kaido is here to target us. Kaido. The moment Akainu saw Kaido, he gritted his teeth in hatred. He had fallen for Kaido's trick, mistakenly killing a celestial dragon and losing his chance to become Marine Admiral. Otherwise, Akainu would be the Marine Admiral now, not that guy Seiji. Therefore, Akainu's hatred for Kaido was even greater than Seiji's, all stemming from Kaido of the Beast Kingdom. If possible, Akainu wanted to personally kill Kaido of the Beast Kingdom to quell his hatred. Kizaru, noticing Akainu's intense hatred for Kaido and the 100 Beasts, contemptuously reminded him, "That's terrifying, Sakazuki, you need to calm down now. This is Kaido's Beast Pirates, a force far superior to ours." After saying those last words, Kizaru added a thought to himself. If the situation wasn't right, he would definitely flee. He didn't want to stay and be killed by Kaido. After all, if he were killed by Kaido, it would be equivalent to having nothing. As long as he was alive, he hadn't lost yet. I won't act blindly. Although Akainu was furious, he wasn't completely brainless. He understood that facing Kaido's Beast Pirates, they only had one path, defeat. Therefore, retreat was their only option. Didn't the Blackbeard pirates run faster than dogs, not daring to stop at all? Seeing this, Redfield finally breathed a sigh of relief. He really wanted to know how Kaido had broken through his limits, and he also knew he absolutely had to save his life, otherwise he would lose his life and all his efforts would be in vain. So Redfield turned around and started to flee like the Blackbeard pirates. However, Kaido's dragon eyes kept scanning the people below. Seeing Redfield fleeing, he opened his mouth and said, "Proud Redfield, did I give you permission to leave? What, are you targeting me?" This time, Redfield was completely stunned. Being targeted by Kaido of the Beast Pirates was not a good thing. Blackbeard Teach and the others were even more terrified by Kaido's words. Fortunately, Kaido of the Beast Pirates didn't seem to be looking for them, a stroke of luck in misfortune. Blackbeard Teach was terrified of Kaido, and before he had acquired sufficient strength, he would rather die than face Kaido again. That kind of monster could take his life at any moment. Redfield suspiciously inquired, "Kaido, what do you want from me?" As Redfield opened his mouth to ask, Kizaru, not wanting to be outdone, quickly said, "Sakazuki, let's escape." Akainu didn't hesitate either. After all, they had no chance against Kaido. The spider demon was the same, and they quickly fled with a group of soldiers. Neither Kizaru nor Akainu dared to ask Kaido any questions, fearing that Kaido's attention would be drawn to them, which would be dangerous. At Akainu, Kizaru, and the spider demon group ran a distance behind, only to find that Kaido of the 100 Beasts hadn't called for them. They all sighed in unison, Kizaru reverting to his usual meek demeanor, saying, "How terrifying. It's a good thing Kaido wasn't targeting us, otherwise we'd all probably be finished. I never thought even an admiral would be so afraid of a pirate." Akainu's expression remained calm. Behind him, the group of marine soldiers felt like they had survived a disaster. Being alive was a blessing in disguise. Spider-Man, dragging his severely injured body, turned to Redfield and sympathetically said, "Old man, you're finished this time." However, unexpectedly, the moment Spider-Man turned his head, Kaido caught his eye. In his Azure Dragon form, Kaido exhaled a breath of heat and said, "Marine, it seems you all want to stay." At Kaido's words, Akainu, Kizaru, and Spider-Man all widened their eyes in shock. Akainu and Kizaru were both so furious they wanted to curse Onigumo to death. Kizaru, in particular, initially looked subservient, but then transformed into a deathly stare, staring intently at Onigumo. At this moment, Onigumo felt like committing suicide. Why did he have to be so shameless as to stare at Kaido of the Beast? What was the point of that stare? Not only did he bring trouble upon himself, but he also dragged the entire marine force into this mess. He could have easily escaped, but now whether he could even escape successfully was a serious question. Redfield sighed in relief. It was fortunate that those marine idiots were helping to distract Kaido of the Beasts. Otherwise, if Kaido had targeted him alone, Redfield would have been terrified. Now that even the Marines were being watched by Kaido, Redfield felt he could try to see if he could escape. As long as he could leave this place, the injuries on his body would be nothing to Redfield. As a mythical Zoan model, vampire ability user, he could quickly recover from his negative status by devouring a large amount of blood. After all, according to Redfield, no matter how powerful Kaido of the Beasts was, he couldn't possibly keep an eye on the Marines while also looking after him. since Kaido of the Beasts couldn't be in two places at once. So Redfield began waiting for the right moment, and after Kaido of the Beasts launched an attack on the Marines, he would immediately begin to flee. At the moment, this was the only way. Otherwise, Redfield couldn't think of any better way to escape from under Kaido's nose. Kaido opened his dragon mouth, and a powerful surge of heat began to gather, enveloping even his Heishoku Haki. Super heat breath. Kaido, enveloped in Heishoku Haki, unleashed a blast of heat directly towards Akainu, Kizaru, Onigumo, and the other Marines. The sheer force was so overwhelming that even Akainu and Kizaru were stunned. Boom! In an instant, Kaido's heat breath attack swept everything along its path, burying Akainu, Kizaru, Onigumo, and the other Marines. This scene left Redfield, Blackbeard Teach, and the Black Crew all gasping in shock. It was terrifying. If they were hit, they would be crippled or even killed. Blackbeard Teach, disregarding his crew, began desperately fleeing, fearing that Kaido would target him and suffer the same fate as the Marines. Redfield, on this side, had spread his blood-red wings and desperately clawed at them. If he didn't seize every second to escape, he might very well not get away. After attacking the Navy, Kaido paid no further attention to them. His original target wasn't the Navy. It was just that idiot Onigumo was causing trouble, so Kaido needed to teach the Navy a lesson. In his Azure Dragon form, Kaido sped towards Red the Aloof, who was fleeing. Seeing the enormous Azure Dragon Kaido heading straight for him, Redfield loudly questioned, "Kaido, why are you targeting me? I have no grudge against you." Ha ha ha! Kaido's laughter echoed, saying, "Redfield, you've been a pirate for many years, and you still ask such naive questions." Redfield understood that as a pirate, he could do whatever he wanted. Being targeted by Kaido could only be attributed to his incredibly bad luck. Disgusting. You want my life? Let's see if you have the strength, Kaido. Redfield, seeing no escape, decided to act viciously. He wasn't some soft target. Even if Kaido of the Beasts was powerful, he still wanted to make him suffer. Kaido, having shed his Azure Dragon form, wielded his spiked club and engaged Redfield in battle. At the same time, everyone on the Marine side had been dissolved. Only Akainu and Kizaru escaped, Kizaru even managing to pull the severely injured Akainu away. However, even though they escaped in time, Kizaru and Akainu couldn't avoid being hit by Kaido's superheated breath. If Kizaru had fled alone with all his might, he could have successfully avoided Kaido's attack. But Kizaru's attempt to save Akainu resulted in both of them being hit. Overall, these minor injuries were tolerable. Akainu gasped for breath, whispering, "That bastard Kaido, his power seems to have increased even more. What's going on? We, the admirals, are now so weak that we can't even withstand a single blow. It's simply ridiculous." Akainu didn't know that after Kaido obtained the Rinnegan, the power of his haki had increased even further, which is why the Heishoku Haki that enveloped him earlier was so terrifying to Akainu. Kizaru, with a look of utter contempt and a headache, said, "Kaido is truly terrifying. We should leave quickly. If we don't leave, we'll both have to ride our wills here." Regarding the beast Kaido's increasingly powerful strength, Kizaru didn't want to mention it. After all, Sakazuki wasn't wrong. They, as Marine Headquarters admirals and the world government's highest-ranking combatants, showing such fear in the face of Kaido was truly laughable. However, it had to be admitted that Beast Kaido did indeed possess overwhelming strength. After all, admiral-level combatants were no match for Kaido in a one-on-one fight, just like an admiral crushing a vice-admiral. Therefore, to truly confront Beast Kaido, at least 5 admiral-level individuals would need to gang up on him. Even 5 could only offer resistance, defeating Kaido. That was utterly preposterous and unrealistic. According to Kizaru, to defeat Kaido, 10 Emperor-level generals would need to attack together. That would be no problem. Even the powerful Kaido of the Beast Pirates couldn't withstand 10 Emperor-level generals. After all, Kaido of the Beast Pirates is undeniably super powerful. But their admirals are also top-tier fighters, and only Kaido himself is at the peak of their power. Kizaru, along with Akainu, transformed into a streak of light and quickly flew away from the area. They didn't want to linger here for another moment. Just now, Onigumo had glanced at Kaido. Now, Onigumo and a group of Marine soldiers had all been reduced to a pile of dissolved sewage. Kizaru and Akainu's escape speed was faster than that of the Blackbeard pirates. Kizaru and Akainu had already flown away from the island, while the Blackbeard pirates had just reached the shore, preparing to board their ships and leave. Kizaru's Pika Pika no Mi Devil Fruit ability was something the Blackbeard pirates, including Blackbeard Teach, constantly admired. Kizaru's Devil Fruit ability was speed, super speed, making his escape skills top-notch. After Kizaru left with Akainu and the Blackbeard pirates, Redfield was in immense pain, relentlessly struck by Kaido's spiked club. Redfield wanted to retaliate, but he was unable to, and had no strength left. The previous intense battles and injuries had left Redfield in an extremely weakened state. As a result, after being struck several times by Kaido's spiked club, he was completely incapable of fighting, relying solely on his strong willpower. Otherwise, he would have long since collapsed. But as Redfield was constantly being struck by Kaido's Beast Club, he began to notice something was wrong. Kaido of the Beasts was indeed attacking him, but each time he seemed to fail to kill him, which greatly frustrated Redfield. Believing Kaido was humiliating him, he loudly questioned Kaido, "If you have the guts, kill me, don't humiliate me." Ha ha ha, Kaido smirked, revealing a satisfied smile, and said, "Redfield, are you already giving up in this state, or is this all you've got? Kill me, I'm no match for you. You don't need to humiliate me like this." Finally, even Redfield, like a Buddha, gave up struggling. Because, now severely injured, he had no ability to resist Kaido at all. Even in full strength, he probably wouldn't last half an hour. Therefore, it was better to simply surrender and admit defeat. After all, he had lived long enough. Kaido hoisted his staff onto his shoulder, laughing as he said, "Ha ha ha, Redfield, don't you think it's a pity to die like this after acquiring the mythical Zoan model, vampire ability? Since you're already choosing to surrender to death, why not choose another option? Maybe you can continue to shine and shine on this vast ocean." Redfield immediately understood Kaido's meaning. If he still couldn't grasp it, then all his years of navigating the seas would have been wasted. However, Redfield was actually very conflicted about the other choice. After all, he had always been accustomed to being a lone wolf. He had never joined anyone's ranks, and now he faced only two choices, death or joining to continue living. Redfield watched Kaido's lips curl into a smile from beginning to end, pondered for a few seconds, and then replied, "Then I look forward to your guidance in the future, Lord Kaido." At the same time, Redfield silently muttered to himself. He was probably no longer the aloof Redfield he once was. Since choosing to consume the mythical Zoan model, vampire ability, he had unknowingly become afraid of aging and death. Very good. Welcome to your joining, Redfield. In the Beast Pirates, you can also enjoy a high status. Kaido wasn't surprised by Redfield's. If it were the aloof Redfield, even with his current strength, it would probably be difficult to convince him to submit. But the elderly Redfield was different. Even though he utilized the mythical Zoan model, vampire ability to restore youth, Redfield was still essentially an old man. Therefore, a change in his mindset was inevitable. At the same time, Kizaru, having successfully escaped with Akainu, felt a sense of relief at having survived a near-fatal accident. To be honest, Kizaru himself was no match for Kaido, but killing him wouldn't be easy either. Kizaru himself had top-notch escape speed, but carrying Akainu made things different. Unless absolutely necessary, he'd have to abandon Akainu and fly away at full speed. Otherwise, there really wouldn't be any other way. Kizaru said with a pathetic expression. That was terrifying. "Sakazuki, I helped you escape successfully. You have to repay me properly." After all, the situation was so dangerous. "Stop talking nonsense. I'll give you 100 million berry from me personally later." Akainu understood Kizaru's temperament very well. Basically, giving him the right amount of berry would suffice. Upon hearing Akainu's willingness to invest 100 million berry, Kizaru instantly broke into a knowing smile. At least 100 million berry was enough for Kizaru to live comfortably for a very long time. Enough for many afternoon teas. Of course, Kizaru couldn't possibly say these words out loud. As a high-ranking admiral, he also needed to maintain his pride. Meanwhile, the Blackbeard pirates sailed across the sea in their dilapidated old pirate ship. Blackbeard Teach sighed, looking at the sun with an ugly grin and saying, "Ha ha ha, I'm still alive, so it's not over yet. There's still a chance. Just wait for me. When the time is right, I'll be the one to mock you. Captain Teach, how do you plan to deal with Kaido of the 100 Beasts in the future? Shiryu of the Rain, puffing on his cigar, pointed at the ship and inquired. The Blackbeard pirates are determined to confront Kaido of the Beasts in the future, unless their captain, Blackbeard Teach, doesn't compete for the Pirate King's throne. As long as they compete for the Pirate King's throne, their confrontation is inevitable. Therefore, they need to quickly and carefully consider how to deal with Kaido of the Beasts. There's also something Shiryu of the Rain didn't mention. He joined the pirates through a partnership with Blackbeard Teach. If Blackbeard Teach has no way out, Shiryu of the Rain must also find a way out for himself. He certainly can't let Blackbeard Teach be the only one to die. Those with this idea include prisoners who escaped from the 6th level of Impel Down's Infinite Hell, Devon, Corrupt King, and the Barrow Pirates. Of course, their courage wasn't as great as Shiryu of the Rain's. After all, Shiryu of the Rain was arguably the strongest member of the entire Blackbeard Pirates crew, aside from Blackbeard Teach. Therefore, Shiryu of the Rain's way of thinking is relatively normal, but the other three are different. After all, although their strength is very strong, they haven't reached first-class level yet. At this moment, everyone in the Blackbeard Pirates looked towards their Captain Teach, wanting to hear how Captain Teach planned to deal with Beast Kaido. After all, this huge mountain that is Beast Kaido must be climbed. If they don't climb it, everything will be equivalent to zero, becoming meaningless. Blackbeard Teach extended his hand. The power of the Yami Yami Nomi in his left hand began to fluctuate, and he laughed uglily, saying, "Thief ha ha ha, as for how to defeat Beast Kaido, I've already thought it through. It's to use a pincer attack." After all, a one-on-one fight is simply no match for Beast Kaido. With my Yami Yami Nomi ability, I can easily neutralize Devil Fruit abilities. Then, if we all launch a surprise attack, we can defeat Kaido of the Beast Pirates. Even if he's a true super monster, he definitely won't be able to withstand so many people. Captain Teach, with so many members of the Beast Pirates, who will handle the situation? We don't have that much fighting power. Our overall strength is far behind the Beast Pirates. Corrupt King also directly and clearly stated the predicament their Blackbeard Pirates were facing. Drinking his wine, Blackbeard Teach thought of the Beast Pirates' towering, super powerful fighting strength, and fearfully replied, "That's right, the Beast Pirates are full of strong fighters. And even with Captain Teach's ability to steal Kaido's Devil Fruit, the probability of us killing Kaido together is probably not high." The crew's dismissive attitude made Blackbeard Teach's face extremely grim. Only Burgess, Lafitte, Van Augur, and Doc Q were relatively loyal, but that was understandable, as they were all veterans of Blackbeard Teach's pirate crew. Lafitte, pacing around with his sword, suggested, "Thinking about these things now is useless. We should be focusing on how to take down the Whitebeard Pirates. That's our main priority right now. As for the Beast Pirates, it's best if we don't clash with them. We should avoid conflict as much as possible, even if it means losses. Because a conflict with the Beast Pirates would inevitably lead to our defeat, therefore, there's no need for it." "I agree with what Lafitte said," Van Augur replied. Doc Q, leaning on his horse's back and looking ill, said, "Anyway, I have no opinion. You guys decide." Ha ha ha. Burgess raised both hands and laughed. "Captain Teach, I'm willing to fight for you, even if it means sacrificing my life." Ha ha ha. Blackbeard Teach smiled contentedly at his crew. "Idiot. What kind of nonsense are you saying? You're my most important crew member. How could I let you pay the price with your life?" Although Blackbeard Teach was a traitor, he still cared deeply about his pirate crew. These were the members of his future Pirate King's throne, and he certainly couldn't afford to lose them. So Blackbeard Teach decided to speak up. "You guys, after returning, start preparing to launch a surprise attack on the Whitebeard Pirates. We don't necessarily need to engage in a direct conflict with them. We just want to make them anxious. From there, we'll find an opportunity to break through and slowly wipe out the entire Whitebeard Pirates. We'll become 4 emperors." Blackbeard Teach's words greatly boosted the morale of the Blackbeard Pirates. Initially, they were terrified by Kaido of the 100 Beasts, and if they didn't seize the opportunity to do something, their morale would shatter. Just as the Blackbeard Pirates' morale was boosted again, Blackbeard Teach began to think about Kaido of the 100 Beasts' strength. He wondered why Kaido of the 100 Beasts possessed such astonishing fighting power. Kaido of the 100 Beasts was a user of multiple Devil Fruit abilities. and Blackbeard Teach himself was one too. But he didn't possess the terrifying fighting power of Kaido, the Beast King. Therefore, Blackbeard Teach's current thoughts were the same as Redfield's before: how to break through the Emperor level limit and gain the same power as Kaido. Kizaru returned to Marineford, carrying the severely injured Akainu. It's Admiral Kizaru and Admiral Akainu back. Wait, how did Admiral Akainu get such serious injuries? The Marine soldiers, initially excited to see their admiral, became anxious upon seeing the severely injured Akainu. After all, this was their admiral. The admiral with the highest fighting power in the Marine headquarters and the world government. There are only a handful of people in the entire world who could injure an admiral. Or perhaps even the 4 emperors of the New World. One of the Navy lieutenant colonels whispered, could it be that Admiral Akainu was wounded by Red the Aloof Redfield? After all, that Redfield was one of the legends of the previous era, and now he's recovered his youth. We don't know how powerful he is. This time, the surrounding Navy soldiers all looked tense. How could there be monsters capable of wounding admirals everywhere? In this summit battle, their navy was defeated by the Beast Pirates, and the number of pirates worldwide continued to skyrocket, leaving them completely bewildered. Seeing this, Akainu, ignoring the pain in his body, shouted loudly, "Where have your ideals of justice gone? They're just pirates. We, as the righteous navy, should not fear sacrifice." Following Akainu's loud shout, the Marine soldiers seemed to regain their resolve. Because their Admiral Akainu was right, they were the righteous Marines. How could they be intimidated by the pirates' power? Kizaru, on the other hand, said contemptuously, "Sakazuki, do you want to go report to Kyuzen?" "Okay, I can't go. I'll just say I'm recovering from an injury," Sakazuki replied directly. Kizaru waved his hand and said, "I know." Kizaru wasn't surprised by Sakazuki's response. After all, Sakazuki and Kyuzen didn't get along, and Kizaru was well aware of that. It seemed the next task would be for him to report to Kyuzen alone, a truly arduous task. So Kizaru went to Kyuzen's office alone. Meanwhile, in Wano country, Kaido returned to Onigashima with Redfield and immediately convened a meeting. The Beast Pirates had also made adjustments. Queen was no longer in the position of one of the 3 calamities, instead being assigned to the scientific research team along with Vinsmoke, Judge, and Caesar. Enel replaced Queen, becoming one of the new 3 calamities. The new Flying 6 were also reorganized, with Queen as the leader, followed by Who's Who, Seiko, Page 1, Vinsmoke, Judge, and Caesar. It could be said that the overall structure of the Beast Pirates had undergone significant changes. Kaido sat in the main seat, with the Flame Calamity King, Enel, Jack, Queen, Judge, Caesar, Who's Who, Seiko, Page 1, and the newly joined Redfield below. The women did not participate. Enel, eager to make a move, asked, "Red the Aloof, I hear you're very powerful. Once your injuries heal, let's have a sparring match." Redfield calmly replied, "Little brat, if you want to spar, I can grant your wish." "What, old man? Don't say I'm taking advantage of someone's misfortune." Enel's temper flared up. He was being completely disrespected by a newcomer. Enel felt he needed to regain his pride. He couldn't be looked down upon. He was Enel Thor. As for whether this old man was injured or not, Enel didn't care now. He had originally intended to give this old man some face, but now it seemed unnecessary. One of Who's Who, sitting and smoking, said Enel that Red the Aloof is currently injured, but he's still the most powerful being here besides Lord Kaido. "What did you say? Are you looking down on me? Then let's have a sparring match first." Enel was annoyed by Who's Who's words and retorted. Who's Who directly replied, "I'm no match for you. There's no need for a show of force." After all, this kind of thing, a simple and clear admission was enough. Who's Who's words just now weren't actually afraid of offending the Flame King. After all, the Flame King didn't officially possess Emperor-level combat power, only very close. But Red the Aloof was a true Emperor level, and a top-tier existence within the Emperor level. As a former CP, he understood this very well. At this moment, the Flame King spoke, "Everyone be quiet. With all this noise, how can Mr. Kaido even speak?" For Redfields, the Flame King was overjoyed. This meant their overall strength as 100 Beasts pirate crew would become even greater. It would be an even greater help to Mr. Kaido. Currently, the Flame King had only one thought: to help Mr. Kaido become the king of the world. As for whether his own position would be shaken, the Flame King didn't care at all. As long as Mr. Kaido could achieve his ideals, that was the most important thing to him. Following the Flame King's words, everyone fell silent, as they didn't dare offend Lord Kaido. Redfield also wanted to hear what this new strongest in the world planned to do next. Kaido slowly said, "Our new member, Red the Aloof Redfield. I'm sure I don't need to introduce him too much. Our Beast Pirate's next course of action is to gradually eliminate the forces in the New World, ultimately achieving true domination of the entire New World. After that, we'll deal with the Navy and the world government. As for the Revolutionary Army, let them continue to work with the world government to wear down their fighting strength." Jack the Drought excitedly replied, "Lord Kaido, you are destined to become the king of the world, ruling over the entire world." Following Jack the Drought's agreement, Queen, Page 1, Shikamaru, Who's Who Judge, and Caesar all chimed in. Caesar and Judge were the happiest. After joining the Beast Pirates, they never imagined they would attain such a high position, something they had never even considered before. Therefore, deep down, they are even more willing to serve Lord Kaido, to contribute their strength to Lord Kaido and the Beast Pirates. Fearing failure and the loss of their current position, Redfield inquired, "Lord Kaido, who do you plan to target next?" Everyone present was equally concerned about this question. After all, there were several top-tier forces in the New World, and of course, their Beast Pirates were undoubtedly the most powerful. Because they had Lord Kaido, the invincible figure. As long as Lord Kaido was present, the Beast Pirates would always remain the strongest. That much was undeniable. Kaido already had an answer in his mind. He wanted to deal with red-haired Shanks first. After all, Kaido could 100% predict that once he began executing his plan, red-haired Shanks would definitely try to stop him. This was obvious, so eliminating red-haired Shanks first would make the next plan much easier. The rest, gradually and relentlessly devouring or eliminating them all. That's Kaido's strategy. Kaido's gaze swept over the crowd, and he replied, "The red-hair pirates, anyway. That red-hair Shanks guy should be dealt with sooner rather than later. Otherwise, he's just a troublemaker." The little brat who was an apprentice on Roger's ship back then. Redfield immediately fell into reminiscence. Back then, he was just a little brat who was an apprentice on Roger's pirate ship, and now he has grown into a top-tier existence in the world. Of course, except for the Beast Kaido in front of him. Beast Kaido is beyond ordinary comprehension, and his past judgments are no longer necessary. Who's expression turned vicious, and he said, "Lord Kaido's decision is wise and mighty. I've long disliked red-haired Shanks." For red-haired Shanks, Who couldn't help but reminisce about that year. If it weren't for that year, he wouldn't have been hunted by the world government, and wouldn't have ended up surrendering to Lord Kaido. He wouldn't even know he'd been secretly killed by someone from the world government. Immediately afterward, Flame King, Edel, Jack the Drought, Queen, Wood, Page 1, Judge, Caesar, and others all expressed their agreement with Lord Kaido's decision. They dared not say no. If they did, they probably wouldn't be able to leave this place. Currently, the entire Beast Pirates obeyed Lord Kaido's orders. They all relied on his influence. Flame King requested instructions, saying, "Lord Kaido, I will begin preparations and secretly arrange to investigate the red-haired pirates' whereabouts." 3 days later, red-haired Shanks secretly left the red-haired pirates and went to the Gorosei meeting room in Mariagewa. At the same time, the 5 Gorosei members were also waiting for red-haired Shanks. When red-haired Shanks arrived, dressed in a black coat, Topman Valkyrie Saint said, "Because you wanted to come, we made time for you. Thank you very much," red-haired Shanks said gratefully. "I came here for a certain pirate, a pirate who will bring immense shock and impact to the entire world," Ethan Baron V. Nasujiro Saint, wiping his weapon, said. "The person you're talking about is Kaido of the Beasts, right?" The Gorosei could have guessed that the reason Shanks, despite the danger, deliberately went to the holy land of Mariagewa was because the person there was undoubtedly the most important. And this person would have a huge impact. Currently, besides Kaido of the Beasts, there was no one else. Shanks wasn't surprised by the Gorosei's judgment. Honestly, this time he risked going to the holy land of Mariagewa. Shanks didn't want to discuss Kaido's situation with the Gorosei, but he had no choice. After all, the threat Kaido posed was too great, so great that even Shanks felt helpless. Imagine how terrifying Kaido is. If it weren't for Kaido's immense threat, Shanks wouldn't have been in this situation. At the very least, entering the sacred land of Muriagua could involve other calculations, not just the matter of Kaido of the Beasts. Therefore, this is the most headache-inducing point for red-haired Shanks, without a doubt. The Gorosei group here also understands this point equally. To bring the world back to the direction they want it to develop, Kaido of the Beasts must be eliminated. Without eliminating Kaido of the Beasts, it can be said that even their world government could be destroyed, so this possibility must be eradicated. No one capable of destroying the world government can be allowed to exist. As for other threats, the world government is confident it can handle them. It's just Kaido's overwhelming power that makes them feel unusually difficult to deal with. Topman Valkyrie Saint retorted, "So what's your idea, red-haired?" Since even the red-haired Shanks went to the sacred land of Muriagua to discuss this matter, it's likely that he has a general or detailed plan in mind. The five of them were also planning to listen and observe, considering how Shanks' suggestion could be implemented. If it worked, everyone would be happy. Eliminating Kaido, such a major threat to the stable rule of Muriagua, would be a cause for everyone's joy. What the Gorosei didn't know is that Shanks' purpose in coming here, besides wanting to use the world government's power to eliminate Kaido, was to help Luffy subdue Kaido. As for the rest, Luffy could train himself. After all, even if Luffy had awakened that power, the chances of defeating Kaido were still extremely small. Therefore, red-haired Shanks took this risk, his purpose being to achieve his goal. The world ultimately wants to return to its proper course, but not the course the world government wants. After all, his current trip to the Holy Land of Muriagua to discuss this with the Gorosei is, frankly, just a cooperative relationship. After glancing at the Gorosei, red-haired Shanks slowly suggested, "My proposal is, my red-haired pirates will lure out Beast King Kaido, and then, with the help of your world government, we can capture him in one fell swoop, ideally killing him completely. To avoid endless future troubles." Saint J. Garcia Saturn immediately replied, "Red-haired, I agree with your proposal. This Beast King Kaido must be dealt with as soon as possible. The longer it drags on, the more disadvantageous it will be for us." Saint J. Garcia Saturn, having foreseen this, continued to abandon Kaido of the Beasts, allowing him to lead his men to the Holy Land of Muriagua, thus ensuring their bitter defeat. FN Baron V. Nasujiro Saint, Shepherd Rue, Peter, Topman Valkyrie Saint, and Marcus Mars Saint all expressed their agreement. Red-haired Shanks' plan, which coincidentally aligned with their world government's strategic goals, was to first eliminate the threat posed by Kaido of the Beasts before discussing anything else. At this moment, Topman Valkyrie Saint's phone rang. At this crucial moment of discussion, he shouldn't have ignored the call, but it was an emergency call. And an emergency call had to be answered immediately. However, since there were outsiders present, Topman Valkyrie Saint turned his gaze towards the red-haired Shanks. FN Baron V. Nasujiro Saint, still wiping his weapon clean, said, "It's nothing, listen. This red-haired kid is fine to listen to. To be honest, he also has celestial dragon blood flowing in his veins." Following FN Baron V. Nasujiro Saint's words, the other for Gorosei felt the same way. Although red-haired Shanks' thoughts or goals were now unchangeable, there was one fact that could never be altered. Red-haired Shanks had celestial dragon blood flowing in his veins. This was something that could never be changed and could not be changed. Hearing this, red-haired Shanks frowned slightly. To be honest, red-haired Shanks didn't like that identity. He preferred his current freedom. Topman Valkyrie Saint then answered the phone. "Lord Gorosei, we've received information that the Yonko Big Mom pirate crew intends to merge with the Yonko Beast pirate crew. However, we haven't been able to monitor the specifics of how they plan the merger." A marine's voice came from the other end of the phone. "What?" Topman Valkyrie Saint instantly sensed that things were getting serious. This was no ordinary matter. In an instant, the entire Gorosei meeting room fell silent, including red-haired Shanks. The news they just heard was enough to send shivers down their spines. It was beyond simply being difficult to handle. It was extremely difficult to handle, and could cause unimaginable repercussions. The cooperation of just two Yonko pirate crews was already a threat, not to mention the addition of the super-powerful beast pirate Kaido. Just like that, the world government's status brought about a fierce shock. Shepherd Peter said in a very serious tone, "What should we do now? There's also a previous piece of information. I heard that Red the aloof Redfield has also joined the Beast Pirates. And now Charlotte Linlin is bringing Big Mom's Pirates to merge with the Beast Pirates for cooperation. With this situation, excluding Kaido, the anomaly of the Beast Pirates, Redfield and Charlotte Linlin together are two Emperor-level generals, plus the countless fighting forces under the Beast Pirates and Big Mom's crew. This is going to be troublesome. Shepherd Repeater didn't exaggerate at all. He spoke tactfully, mentioning Kaido, the anomaly of the Beast Pirates, along with Redfield, Charlotte Linlin, and the fighting forces of Tiyanko crews. This force is immense. Wherever it goes, it's like a gentle autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves. It's all just a light sweep. After all, just 2 of the 4 Emperor's crews alone have several top-tier powerhouses under their command. Here, none of the Gorosei are fools. They can naturally understand just how great the threat it poses. Sitting on the sofa, Topman Valkyrie Saint closed his eyes and said, Kaido's rise to power brings even greater danger than the Rocks Pirates era. This might be the greatest threat our world government has faced in its 800 years of existence. Now, the Gorosei no longer have any reservations about Shanks. With Kaido unleashing such a display, what extraneous thoughts do they have left to guard against Shanks? The only thing they need to consider right now is how to eliminate Kaido of the beasts. If they don't eliminate him, the Gorosei will feel uneasy even in their sleep. If Kaido ever acts up, he could easily storm Mariejwa. Even red-haired Shanks is currently in a state of confusion. His initial confidence in taking down Kaido wasn't particularly high. Now Big Mom's pirates want to merge with the Beast's pirates, which would instantly increase the difficulty of dealing with Kaido. After all, simply eliminating Kaido requires countless forces to take down those under his command, and now Big Mom's pirates are added to that. Therefore, after eliminating those forces under his command, how much power will be left to deal with Kaido? If we don't have enough fighting power to confront Kaido of the 100 Beasts, then in the end we will be gradually annihilated by Kaido of the 100 Beasts. Saint J. Garcia Saturn's head was buzzing. Finally, Saint J. Garcia Saturn decided to say, it seems we need to put the new PX into use soon. If we don't put it into use, our fighting power will be insufficient. Once our fighting power is insufficient, we will be counterattacked by Kaido of the 100 Beasts. Then everything will be completely over. Saint J. Garcia Saturn could already imagine that if they failed to kill Kaido of the 100 Beasts, they would definitely be counterattacked by Kaido of the 100 Beasts. There was no doubt about that. After all, Kaido of the 100 Beasts wouldn't just stand there and let them beat him up. He would definitely retaliate. Shepherd Repeater glanced at Saint J. Garcia Saturn inquiringly. The new PX model from Vegapunk's side, isn't it still under thorough research and development? If they're in such a hurry to put it into use, why? That point, I've considered it, and I'll let Vegapunk speed up the process. Saint J. Garcia Saturn naturally understood this point as well. As a god of defense science, Saint J. Garcia Saturn's research on Vegapunk was incredibly thorough. He had always been wary of Vegapunk, as he couldn't completely trust him. Meanwhile, the red-haired Shanks hadn't expected to hear so much secret information on his trip to Mariejwa, and that the Gorosei wouldn't shy away from him. And then Baron V. Nasujiro Saint, with a serious, murderous look, said, then we must prepare quickly. Kaido of the Beasts, I will pay any price this time to slay you with my sword. Topman Valkyrie Saint looked at the red-haired Shanks and said, red-haired, you can go now. We'll discuss the detailed battle plan over the phone later. Then I'll take my leave, the red-haired Shanks replied, clasping his hands. In truth, Shanks didn't want to wait any longer. He felt completely uncomfortable. After all, this was Mariejwa, the territory of the Gorosei Celestial Dragons. As a pirate, staying in Mariejwa for too long was inappropriate. After Shanks left, the Gorosei continued their in-depth discussions. With Shanks present, they couldn't conduct a thorough discussion. Even though Shanks possessed celestial dragon blood, he wasn't part of the world government's core. Even the majority of celestial dragons in Mariejwa couldn't even enter the world government's core. Not to mention, red-haired Shanks is someone who was separated from the world government from birth. Ultimately, red-haired Shanks is just a powerful pirate. Otherwise, the Gorosei wouldn't show him such respect. A celestial dragon who is a wanderer only deserves their attention if he possesses sufficient strength. Half an hour later, in the new world of the multiverse, Big Mom's pirate cruise territory, Cake Island. At this moment, the main members of the Charlotte clan were all present on Cake Island, with Big Mom Charlotte Lin seated in the main seat. Prospero anxiously inquired, "Mother, are you really sure? We want to cooperate with the Beast Pirates now. There's a high chance they'll take us over." Prospero's words weren't without reason. After all, anyone with common sense could see that the Beast Pirates were the most powerful of the 4 emperors. Just one Beast Kaido was enough to surpass the combined fighting power of a 4 emperors' pirate crew. So his mother's idea of cooperating with Beast Kaido was like a lamb walking into a lion's den. That's exactly what Prospero saw. Following Prospero's lead, Charlotte de Fuku chimed in, "Mother, I think what Brother Prospero said makes sense. After all, Charlotte Daifuku's final words were actually meant to say that her mother's strength was inferior to Kaido of the Beast Pirates, and that seeking cooperation with Kaido in this manner was extremely risky. As important members of the Charlotte family, they had to consider their own future. After Charlotte Daifuku spoke, Charlotte Owen added, "Mother, under your leadership, our Big Mom Pirates don't need to rely on anyone to establish a cooperative relationship. What if we're really taken over by the Beast Pirates? What will we do then?" Charlotte Owen was equally worried about this issue. But just as Big Moms for Sweet Commanders Katakuri, Smoothie Cracker, and Snack hadn't even opened their mouths to speak, Big Mom Charlotte Lin's laughter rang out. Big Mom Charlotte Lin laughed heartily, saying, "I know what you're worried about. It's simply that my years of hard work with the Big Mom Pirates have been taken over by Kaido. Regarding this point, I've already thought about it. Cooperating with Kaido now would definitely not be a fair fight." Hearing Big Mom Charlotte Lin's words, Charlotte Smoothie couldn't help but ask, "If that's the case, then why did you take the initiative, Mom? If we didn't take the initiative to side with Kaido, were we supposed to wait for Kaido to wipe us out?" "You fool!" Big Mom Charlotte Lin retorted angrily. Smoothie, being treated like a child by Big Mom Charlotte Lin, obediently chose to keep her mouth shut. After all, a loud-mouthed mother could very well face some kind of punishment. Smoothie didn't want to risk offending her mother on this adventure, so keeping quiet was the best option. Katakuri sat beside her and slowly said, "Mother, I think I understand your meaning." Big Mom Charlotte Lin wasn't surprised by this. Katakuri was the most outstanding of all her children, so being able to guess her thoughts was normal. Everyone present wanted to hear Katakuri's explanation, because although they each had their own suspicions, none of them were as accurate as Katakuri's brother. Katakuri didn't beat around the bush, responding directly, "My mother used to be with Kaido and spend time with the Rock's pirate crew. Plus, she owes Kaido a debt of gratitude, so if she proactively sought Kaido's cooperation, the chances of him agreeing are very high. There's still one point. Saying it's a merger and cooperation is just a nicer way of putting it. Ultimately, facing the pressure Kaido of the Beast Pirates brings, my mother chose to have our entire Big Mom pirate crew join the Beast Pirates for survival. This way, we and the Beast Pirates will form a common entity, and our leader will probably change to Kaido later. Of course, after my mother joins the Beast Pirates, her status will definitely be second only to Kaido. That's undeniable. With this situation, our Big Mom pirate crew will avoid the risk of being annihilated and can continue to survive. Who knows, in the future we might even gain immense benefits, and our status could very well rise several levels." Everyone present gasped in shock. It was simply too shocking and terrifying. They now understood clearly that, as Katakuri-san said, joining the Beast Pirate crew would be more beneficial than harmful. Big Mom Charlotte Lin picked up a piece of cake and started eating, laughing. Katakuri is right. That's exactly what I was planning. Joining Kaido's ranks and becoming his subordinate is no big deal. After all, this world has always been about the strong. Prospero finally felt a little relieved, saying, "That way, we won't end up in a terrible situation." Big Mom Charlotte Lin said, "Bring me the decipherable phone. I want to confront Kaido." Prospero quickly handed the decipherable phone to his mother. Big Mom Charlotte Lin picked up the phone and immediately gave Kaido the authority. As for whether Kaido would accept, from Big Mom Charlotte Lin's perspective, Kaido had no reason to refuse. After all, Big Mom Charlotte Lin didn't intend to compete for equal status, so with things like this, Kaido had no reason to refuse. This cooperation could be said to be mutually beneficial. As the phone connected, Kaido's image appeared on the receiver. Big Mom Charlotte Lin smiled and said, "Kaido, it's been decades since we last met. Find a time. I'll come to Wano Country for a visit. After all, you've grown to such a high level now. Spit it out. I don't have time for your nonsense." Kaido angrily retorted from the receiver, showing no intention of wasting words. 2 days later, a shocking piece of news rocked the world, especially the pirate crews, who felt as if the entire sky was pressing down on them. That intense oppressive feeling terrified them, causing them to lose the confidence to continue sailing. On a certain supernova-allied island, the Kid Pirates, the Hawkins Pirates, and the Appo Pirates were seated on the ground. Hawkins and Appo were both thoughtfully observing Kid's severed arm. After all, everyone present was a supernova, so Kid's missing arm was extremely noticeable. Even Killer, sitting behind Kid, had a very grim expression under his mask. Kid's arm was gone, and while Kid's Devil Fruit ability could compensate for it, it would significantly impact his fighting ability. But since the incident had already happened, Killer felt that regret was useless. Appo immediately inquired, "Kid, who chopped off your arm? That's quite a tragedy." Upon hearing this, Kid fell into a state of distress, recalling the horrific events of 2 days ago. 2 days prior, Kid had led his pirate crew to challenge the Red Hair Pirates, only to be defeated by Shanks, whom he had never even met. Losing to Shanks wouldn't have been so bad, but he was easily cut off by the Red Hair Pirates' vice-captain, Beckman. This was undoubtedly a great humiliation for Kid, and he absolutely had to avenge it. Therefore, they formed a three-way Supernova Pirate Alliance today. After all, no matter how arrogant Kid was, he realized that relying solely on himself and Killer against the Red Hair Pirates was simply no match. Regarding this matter, Kid didn't choose to avoid Hawkins and Appo. He originally intended to establish a cooperative relationship, therefore telling them was normal. After hearing this, Appo burst into laughter, saying, "Ha ha ha, Kid, you're really in a terrible situation. You lost an arm just like that." But speaking of which, Beckman is the vice-captain of the Red Hair Pirates, so his strength is definitely considerable. Hawkins, fiddling with Carol's deck, slowly said, "Even if we form a pirate alliance, our chances of winning against the Red Hair Pirates aren't very high. Being one of the 4 emperors certainly means you're not someone to be trifled with, so it's best to be cautious. What are you afraid of? You guys can stop the others. Leave the red-haired Shanks to me when the time comes." Kid directly revealed a ferocious look in his eyes. The previous confrontation with Beckman made Kid feel that he had been overconfident, otherwise he wouldn't have had his arm easily severed. In fact, Kid didn't know that Beckman hadn't used his true strength at all, which led Kid to mistakenly believe that his initial carelessness had caused him to lose his arm. So next time, he just needs to be careful, and there will be no problem. Kid was very confident in his own strength. Just as Kid, Hawkins, and Appo were discussing attacking the red-haired pirates, a messenger bird flew overhead and dropped a newspaper. After Hawkins picked up the latest issue of the newspaper, his expression instantly changed. Kid, on the other hand, inquired Hawkins, "What kind of news is it that made you change your expression so drastically?" Appo and Killer were equally curious. The fact that Hawkins' expression changed so quickly indicated that the news in the newspapers was not to be taken lightly. It was the kind with a huge impact. Hawkins said, trembling, "The Beast Pirates and Big Mom Pirates have officially announced their merger. From now on, they are no longer two separate pirate crews, nor are they allies. They are truly merged." What? Kid, Appo, Killer, and the others all changed their expressions. This wasn't good news at all. Allies are allies, in principle. They still belong to their respective pirate crews, but the meaning of merging is different. Just like they are currently in an alliance, once the cooperation ends, they can separate at any time. But merging together is completely different. Immediately, two pirate crews will be combined, and it's no longer simply a matter of 1 + 1 = 2. Appo's eyelids twitched as he said, "This really isn't good news." With this happening, the entire new world will probably fall into the hands of Kaido of the Beast Pirates and Charlotte Linlin of Big Mom. Appo could already imagine the entire new world under the combined rule of two Yonko crews. Would they even have a chance to survive? Unless they joined, there was no other way. Kid slammed his hand on the table and asked, Hawkins, you need to explain in detail. What exactly is going on in the newspapers? The Beast Pirates and Big Mom Pirates merging. Kid, similarly, wasn't stupid. He clearly understood the immense impact the combined power of the two Yonko would have, especially with Kaido of the Beast Pirates. Kaido of the Beast Pirates was now practically an insurmountable obstacle for all pirates, unless they weren't vying for the Pirate King's throne or had joined Kaido's ranks. But that was simply impossible. Kid could never be under anyone else's command. He wanted to be the boss himself, not the boss of others. Appo rubbed his temples, regretting his decision to join the Beast Pirates sooner. At least that way, he could have secured a decent position. However, due to various reasons, he hadn't joined the Beast Pirates, and now he was forming a pirate alliance with Kid and Hawkins. An alliance is undeniably strengthening overall power, but it will also become a very clear objective. That much is undeniable. This is also Appo's biggest worrying right now. No one knows what Kaido and Big Mom Charlotte Linlin will do next after merging. It could also be understood that their current situation is extremely dangerous, and Appo is considering whether or not to break free from this alliance and pursue a different path. Hawkins continued, according to newspaper reports, there will no longer be a so-called Big Mom pirate crew, only a more powerful Beast pirate crew will emerge. After Big Mom Charlotte Linlin led the Big Mom pirate crew to join the Beast pirate crew, she became the Beast pirate crew's vice captain. The previous Big Mom pirate crew officers remain unchanged. The other side of the 10,000 nations has transformed into a branch of the Beast Pirates, essentially making Charlotte Linlin like Big Mom, a member of the Beast Pirates second only to the leader. However, this news is incredibly cruel to the remaining pirates, especially for newcomers like us who haven't yet established ourselves in the new world. Hawkins, who rarely spoke, blurted out a lot this time. There was no other way. The threat posed by the newly formed Beast Pirates was simply too great, so great that it felt like they could target him at any moment. This feeling was extremely unpleasant for Hawkins, and he didn't want to experience it. Kid's expression grew increasingly grim as he listened. They had just formed a pirate alliance, and now the Beast Pirates and Big Mom Pirates were merging. A merger even more egregious than an alliance. How could they possibly continue their struggle for dominance in the new world? They were utterly powerless. Killer, behind Kid, said, no matter what, we can't provoke the newly formed Beast Pirates for now. That's right, Hawkins nodded in agreement. We'll still proceed according to our original plan. With Kaido and Charlotte Linlin of the Beast Pirates making such a big move, I believe others won't sit idly by. Let them fight to their heart's content. If we get involved, we might be wiped out the next moment. It's not impossible. Hawkins said that, and here, Kid, Killer, and Appo all understood this principle. The Beast Pirates were now an existence they couldn't afford to mess with. They probably wouldn't be wiped out the next moment if they did. Appo sighed and said, it really won't do. We might as well surrender to the Beast Pirates. Joining their new crew might give us a decent position. You idiot! What kind of stupid things are you saying? If you want to surrender, go ahead. Don't drag me into it. It has nothing to do with me. If you say such things again, don't blame me for being ruthless. Kid instantly bristled. This bastard Appo. If it weren't for their current alliance, Kid would have really wanted to beat Appo up. After all, Appo was incredibly annoying to Kid. Appo's displeasure instantly flared up. He feared Kaido of the Beast Pirates, but not Kid. He immediately retorted, Kid, do you want to fight? Come on, let's see who's stronger. Come on then, you bastard. Kid stood up, ready to fight at any moment. Appo did the same. The instant conflict between Kid and Appo caused everyone present to become tense, especially the members of both Kid's and Appo's pirate crews. Killer quickly pulled Kid aside, trying to calm him down. Calm down, Kid. Hawkins also restrained Appo, saying, if you to fight here, someone might take advantage of the situation, and you'll regret it. Kid and Appo exchanged glances and turned away. They were already quite incompatible from the start. This time, however, it was due to new pressures that formed a pirate alliance. Hawkins and Killer breathed a sigh of relief when they saw Appo and Kid regain their composure. If the two of them had fought, things would have been really difficult. After sitting down, Kid said, let's temporarily ignore the Beast Pirates and Big Mom Pirates. Our goal is to take down the red hair pirates. Kid didn't want to waste time inside. It was pointless. Once all obstacles were cleared, he could deal with Appo at any time. Appo had the same thought as Kid, but at this moment, Appo had a different idea in mind: how to surrender to the beast pirates. After all, the beast pirates were so powerful now. If he joined, he would also be one of them, and then he could safely survive. Who knows, we might even get involved. Let's see what treasure pirate King Roger left behind. According to Appo, Kaido of the Beast Pirates will definitely try to seize the Pirate King's throne in the future. It's just a matter of time. Hawkins, while pondering Carol's suggestion, said, "The red hair pirates don't have a fixed territory, so we need to discuss our attack more carefully and have a thorough and detailed plan. No, just starting a war at sea isn't necessarily in our best interest. Leave the intelligence gathering mission to me." Appo volunteered, standing up to respond. Appo's actions weren't that simple. He was also trying to figure out how to join the Beast Pirates. Right now, Appo just wanted to join them as soon as possible. As for his alliance with Hawkins and Kid, that kind of alliance wasn't strong. It was just mutual exploitation. According to Appo, that's exactly what it was. Kid, completely unaware of Appo's intentions, slammed his hand on the table and said, "Okay. Then the mission to investigate the red hair pirates' whereabouts is entrusted to you." "Haha, no problem," Appo happily replied. With that, half the objective was achieved. Returning from the sacred land of Mariajua, red-haired Shanks's expression was consistently grim. After all, the plan he intended to carry out hadn't gone smoothly, and instead, he'd received even worse news. The red-haired pirates could roughly guess why their leader looked so upset. Shanks shook his head and sighed, saying, "In just a short year, what exactly happened to Kaido of the 100 Beasts? Why did his strength suddenly increase so dramatically? It's simply unbelievable. Who says it isn't true? We always thought our leader was the strongest, but he's been completely surpassed." Lucky chimed in, speaking his mind without any reservations. The red-haired pirates had always been like this, therefore everyone was used to it. Beckman, relatively sober, said while smoking, "No matter how Kaido acquired his current strength, what we should do now is to see the direction of the future. Worrying pointlessly is meaningless." "Beckman, you're right," red-haired Shanks replied sarcastically to Isho. "Since Big Mom Charlotte Linlin has gone to merge with Kaido, I should also go and discuss it with Whitebeard. After all, we can't be too inactive, right, brothers?" "Boss, that's right. That's your style." All the members of the red-haired pirates chimed in. After all, their boss now looked exactly like the normal boss they should be. At the same time, the Whitebeard pirates, including Moby Dick, were all seeing the latest news from the press. Everyone in the Whitebeard pirates was extremely worried about their father because he held the position of a Yonko emperor. Now that the Beast Pirates and Big Mom Pirates were merging, their situation was extremely dangerous. They could be attacked by Kaido of the Beast Pirates at any moment, and if Kaido launched an attack, their father would very likely perish. As for themselves, they weren't overly concerned about their own safety. Compared to their own safety, they were more worried about their father's safety. Unable to contain his anxiety, Kingdo, the captain of the First Division, asked worriedly, "Everyone, if Kaido of the Beasts chooses to attack our Whitebeard pirates, then we'll be completely..." Kingdo didn't dare continue speaking because honestly, the Whitebeard pirates were currently powerless against the Beast Pirates and Big Mom Pirates. Not to mention, there was Kaido, a Beast Pirates member whose strength surpassed even their father's. With Kingdo's words, the captains of the various divisions present became even more worried. Although Kingdo hadn't finished speaking, they understood what he meant. They all looked anxiously at their father. Sitting in the main seat drinking wine, Whitebeard laughed heartily. "It's all over now, my sons. What are you worried about? Are you still worried that Kaido will kill me someday? However, I have to admit that Kaido's strength today is indeed far superior to mine." Whitebeard didn't shy away from this fact. Anyone with common sense could see that Kaido of the Beasts was far superior to him. However, Whitebeard also had his own plans to hand over the Whitebeard pirates to Ace, then have Ace leave the New World, trying to avoid a future world war. After all, the chances of the Whitebeard pirates surviving such a large-scale war were extremely slim. As for his own life, Whitebeard didn't care at all. Marco stepped forward and said, "Father, I know your thoughts, but you must also respect ours. If Kaido of the Beasts truly attacks, we, as his sons, are willing to fight alongside you to the end." Marco, you're right, father. We are willing to fight alongside you to the end, even if it costs us our lives. Jozo Diamond also followed suit, his unwavering stance echoing in his voice. Ace looked at his brothers, then back at their father, shouting, "We are all people who have received father's care. So when danger arises, how can we let father bear it alone? Right?" "That's right, we can't let father bear it alone," Vista, the flower sword, also loudly echoed. The 16th Division Captain, Izo, said, "Father, we have all received your care for so many years. It's our turn to repay you, isn't it, brothers?" The 15th Division Captain, Fasa, puffing on his cigar, said, "Isn't it just a matter of dying? No matter what, we must drag a beast pirates officer down with us." The 13th Division Captain Buffalo Atmos patted his chest and declared, "We don't care about fighting to the death. We'll definitely make the ferocious beast pirates skin us alive." "That's right. We are the Whitebeard pirates. What if the beast pirates and Big Mom pirates team up? If they want to destroy us, they'll have to pay a heavy price." Rakuyo, the captain of the 7th Division, responded firmly. He was, arguably, one of the newest to follow his father, understanding his father's character well, and more importantly, they were the Whitebeard pirates. Diamond Jozo raised his right hand and shouted, "Even if we die in battle, we cannot bring shame to the Whitebeard pirates." Whitebeard stopped drinking, looked at his foolish sons, and said helplessly, "You idiots, I've lived long enough. You're still young. Why are you so eager to die?" To be honest, Whitebeard felt helpless. He couldn't absolutely interfere with his son's decisions. Moby Dick, in the remote Yamato region, was consumed by inner turmoil. His father, Kaido, the Beast King, was now practically the enemy of the entire world. To be honest, the Whitebeard pirates were all kind and wouldn't hold a grudge against him simply because he was Kaido's daughter.